Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to you. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. This is the very first DraftWorks webinar for the year. I hope your 2026 has got off to a really good start for you, and I just wish you all the best for that. So, folks, I just need to say something. It's a little bit cryptic, but the presenters will know. The cake is in the oven, and it's up to temperature, and I've put it in, and it's got started. And so without much further ado, one last thank you for tuning in. I see the numbers are going up now. It's great. In Pumalelo, you're not allowed to look at the counter, remember? But welcome, folks. Thank you for joining us. And I'm going to hand over to Nicole. Nicole, over to you.
Thank you so much, Shane. Good afternoon, everybody. And welcome to our 2026 webinar series extraordinaire. I am super excited to be here again today with everybody. I absolutely love this time of year as it gives us a great opportunity to share our knowledge with you. Firstly, thank you to everyone who is joining us today. We know that this is a very busy time of the year for most of you, and we thank you for taking some time out of your very busy schedules to join us. We would also like to extend a massive shout out to all our users, without whom we would really not be here today. So thank you for your ongoing support and your feature requests, giving us an opportunity to always strive to be better for you. So please, if you have any suggestions, keep them coming so we can keep that flag flying high. Secondly, thank you to Shane for always being willing to give us some of your time to assist us in hosting these webinars and the admin for the CPD certificates. I mean, that turnaround time, guys, what an impression. Your assistance and your time is superly, greatly appreciated. Lastly, I need to take a moment here to thank some very special humans from behind the scenes. To our developers, our support team, and everyone else at DraftWorks, thank you for your innovation, your dedication. You are what keeps DraftWorks a well-oiled machine. So thank you for all that you do. Today, I'm joined by two of my fellow DraftWorks gurus. We have the ever-charismatic Clarissa, who's going to be helping us with some Q&A. And we have the Energizer Bunny himself, Mpumelelo. He's going to be guiding us along our basics journey. In today's basics session, we are going to cover, as well as highlight, all the DraftWorks basic functionalities and understanding, enabling us to set up a client engagement. You're going to be able to prepare a simple set of financials for printing and distribution. Along the way, we'll also uncover some very nifty tips and tricks to best prepare you to becoming a DraftWorks guru yourself. Please remember, we will be hosting our advanced session on Thursday. Trust me, you do not want to miss this. We are going to be showcasing and highlighting key new features, which the team has worked and continues working hard on to make the DraftWorks experience even better, with the goal in mind of improving your financial statement preparation process. We'll also dive deeper into some complex features and functions, providing you with a more streamlined experience and also giving you a little bit of extra time for things that truly matter, like a good old coffee date. And on that note, let's dive into our basics and get this party started. Okay, so guys, to actually get set up on DraftWorks, we need to focus on a little bit of the setting. There's always a little bit of admin when it comes to things like this. Okay, so here I have my DraftWorks application and my DraftWorks logo. I have a settings functionality. Now we're going to cover the settings. Okay. For those users who have been with us for a very long time, this may look a little different to what you were used to. Again, this was one of our features that was upgraded last year. So we're going to go through this. I'm going to highlight a few things, as well as indicate what we may cover more extensively in the advanced session. So let's begin. Obviously, these are our application settings. So our local is our language base. I am a very much English person, okay? So I'm happy to see that I can see the application in English. We do, however, have Spanish and Arabic as well. So if you are based outside of South Africa, or you are multilingual, by all means, you have the ability to choose the respective language. Your user details. Why is user details important? No, we're not trying to steal your information. No, no, no. We actually have this set up because in most cases, you're looking at a firm perspective. I want to see accountability. I want to be able to know who did what. I also want to be able to set certain levels. Nicole prepared something, Mpumelelo reviewed something. I want to see that in my system. So I'll go input my user initials for accountability purposes. My user email address. Now, here's a cool new feature. You'll see in my user email address, I have an option to verify that email address. Now, why would I want to do that? Well, simply put, there's two purposes to this. One, when you verify that email, it's also just giving you some assurance that when I am sending Draftworks a support request file, don't worry, we will cover that later as to what that entails. But it just ensures that Draftworks is receiving confirmation from me and I am getting communication back from them, making sure your request never goes unattended. The other purpose for the verification is also going to be covered in our advanced. And this has to do with something we kind of sneak peeked last year, and that is the in-house notifications function. Okay, notifications means that if I'm reviewing my file and I go and write a review note to Mpumelelo, while he's busy working in another client file, he will see in the top right-hand corner here where my license code is displayed. There's a little chat box. That is my notification center. So instead of me now having to draft him a 10-page email telling him, please go here for this, do this, do this, I can use an in-house notification process. Okay, we are covering this in advanced. So for anyone interested in that, please join in on Thursday. Next setup we get is your firm. Now you'll see I already have my firm information in. Simply this pulls through to every single engagement file that I am going to create here on out. Now, again, we have various clients. We've got corporations where maybe just one person's responsible for signing financials. We've got cases where I have a firm where there's 20 partners. Now, depending on which partner needs to sign, you will note when we go through the basic file, I would be able to update just that specific disclosure. The rest of my information will pull through automatically to my financial statement. Just a nice time saver, because imagine having to go repeatedly type all this information on my 200 client files I need to go and prepare. Our next tab is called Financial Statements. Here I'm able to set up default font or a default grouping. So I currently have my default font applied, simply meaning all my financial statements will be presented in that font I have chosen. By default, mine is Calibri. There is a lovely, very long drop-down list, so you are more than welcome to go choose what you are set to do in terms of preference of how you want your financials printed. The other benefit to applying a default font is that if I do copy something from Word or from Excel and I go and put it into a note, I'll be rest assured that they convert to my defaulted font. The thousands grouping, again, preference. Do you want to see 100,000 with a space in between? Or would you like to see 100,000 with a comma? I can go and choose that, apply it as a default to all the files I create. All right, now we get to your settings for profile. Okay, in terms of your profile settings, this is where we look at storing the information or your client files or your financials, however you want to refer to them. Now you'll see I have a clients folder. My clients folder speaks towards my local clients. Okay, So at the back of my screen, you can see I have a local client. This being blank simply means all my information is stored in my local drive under my C drive, uses public documents, a data prime folder called Draftworks, and clients. That's where all the files I create will be stored. Now, just two things to note if you are using local clients. One, DraftWorks does not do any backup of that file folder. That is simply because it is on your computer, so we don't have direct access to that. So if I need to make sure that if in the unfortunate event that something happens to my computer, I do have a backup, I need to do external backups of that file location. Our support team is readily available to assist you if you need to see how to do that backup or find it. We can show you, but it does need to be done by the individual where the files are stored. The other point is if I am creating or using files on my local, because it is on my computer alone, it doesn't mean that Mpumelelo can now have a look at my files because it's not a shared access, okay? So what happens in those instances where we actually do need a situation like that? Well, we have our server clients. Again, on Thursday, we're going to explain in detail how the server client setup works and the functionalities around that, as well as our archived clients. Simply put, archived clients means all my history of prior year financials, I can store them in a very different location with a few other permissions that I will further detail on Thursday. Lastly, templates folder. We highly recommend keeping this one blank. We don't want you to change the file path there unless specified by a DraftWorks employee, simply because this is the folder that contains all of my financial statement templates. DraftWorks maintains those templates, always making sure you have the most up-to-date version. So if it is not reading to the correct location, it will result in me having an incorrect version possibly. So we don't mess with that little folder. The last little function that is of importance and a nice little nugget of information, if you want to call it that, is in other settings. You will see that I have a function called autosave interval. It is set to 15 minutes. We've felt that that is our best safety net. To put it simply, autosave means if I've been working hard all day, 8 hours in, I'm really grafted, these financials are absolutely perfect, the worst thing happens, my computer shuts down, and I don't recall the last time I saved. Rest assured, DraftWorks has me covered because I have that autosave interval. So I'd be able to recover those autosaves. We will be covering it along the series as to showing that. Okay. So now my settings are all sorted. I'm on the right path to go. Last one, templates. Templates are your financial statements, commonly affectionately known as framework. Okay. So I'm just going to highlight something because, again, I might not just have clients who are South African based. So in my little settings function here, I have an option to select templates. You will see that we have templates for quite a vast number of countries. All those financial statements are in accordance with those country-specific Company Act requirements, as well as any other legislative requirements. Now, just as a note, I don't go and add all of these if I do not need them. This is not compulsory to add every single country. You only want to add the country that you have to do, okay? Because trust me, that framework list that Mpumelelo is going to show us in a bit, it gets very long. and I might accidentally select the incorrect framework. And here I'm doing a set of financials for Scotland when I should be doing something for South Africa. The other reason we advise only adding the country specific you need is because, one, it's going to start slowing down your update process because there's now a lot of frameworks and templates to keep up to date, but also it is going to start taking up some more of your disk space on the computer. So only add the respective countries you are going to be using. The abbreviations will indicate what country they are, so it is distinguishable on the framework list. Right, now that we have all our admin out of the way, I'm going to call on Pumi to assist me in setting up the client file. As luck would have it, you know how it goes in January. I have a client, they've called me, they're in a desperate panic and a desperate need as their financials are urgently required by Thursday this week. So, with Pumi's help, as well as Draftworks by my side, I'm 100% certain we're going to be able to meet our client's deadline. Pumi, I'm going to hand over you. So if I can just stop sharing and you can take the screen, you can take over.
Thank you, Nicole. Awesome. Thank you very much, Brewmaster. I am gonna take us on a journey today. So since we have our settings sorted and we're familiar with the templates, I'm a shortcuts guy. So first thing I just want to take us through is a couple of interesting features that are on your dashboard that maybe you know, but if you're new, you might not know as well. So I just want to take you through them just so you know what do these buttons do when you click on them. So the first one I want to take you to is the smaller DraftWorks button, the DraftWorks logo there. This is your license information. If you click on this, it will display your license information. And then next to it is the question mark. You'll see there's multiple question marks here as well. This specific one is for knowledge base. If you don't know what knowledge base is, it's basically a database of information we've collated from the system based on certain repeated questions. So we try and provide that in case you can't get a hold of us on support. You can always access those just to get a refresher on how do certain things work. But again, a support is also available to assist should you need it. Then there is this clock with the anti-clockwise arrow. That is gonna, if you click on that, you will be able to access your most recent clients. So instead of scrolling through a bunch of clients or filtering or anything, you can go to the last client you were on just by accessing it right here. And finally, there is this downward facing arrow. This is a cool one. It allows you to either show your ribbon or hide it or move these buttons here to below your ribbon. Pretty cool feature. It's not commonly used, but pretty useful when you do use it. So another thing I just want to explain quickly is the different sort of segments of this screen you see here. So the first one is the gray, which is actually functional. Once you have a list of clients, you can actually sort them in order of the respective headings. This will be in alphabetical order or numerical, depending on whether you're filtering for the years or the name of the client. Then you have this green bar here. If you see a green bar in DraftWorks anywhere, it is a filter or search bar. You can type in information in here in order to search for your specific clients. And you can search for specific clients and then it will filter for those specific client descriptions. Or if you're looking for a specific framework, there's a certain client that is a certain framework. It's only that client you can filter using frameworks or whatever you choose to use to filter. That is always great to use. So a fun fact, coffee has citric acid just like oranges. Why is it a fun fact? Because orange is where we're starting with the creation of our file. When you click on the orange section, you will see you're able to input information again. So I'm creating a new client. Our client is Brewco Pty Ltd. You just still edit that. So one thing to note with the client name is your client name is required to be a minimum of 3 characters and must be a maximum of 60 characters. The characters will include the spaces in between the words. So these individual spaces will count as a character as well. You can then choose your financial year, and finally, you will choose the period as well. These are sort of automated based on the period you're in. We're in 2026, so it automatically chooses that. The default for period is the annual financials for 12 months because this is the most frequently used. And one more important thing that you need to choose before you can go ahead is the framework. As Nicole was explaining, if you choose multiple templates, you'll have a ton of these to scroll through. I've only chosen one, so it's pretty easy for me to find the framework I'm looking for, which in today's case is the IFRS for SMEs. And then finally, there is working papers also available, which you can choose based on your particular engagement. But we're not here for spoilers. There is a webinar coming up on that around the 3rd of Feb. I hope you are registered for that. So once I've entered all of the relevant details, chosen my framework, I can go ahead and now create this file. How do I do that? Simply press enter, and we will land on the client setup. So when you land here, there are a couple of things I just want to take us through. There's obviously the cup and coffee of the whole situation, the most important features, which is the client setup and financial data. But there are some extras, and these extras are actually pretty useful in most instances. You will find them quite useful for your purposes as well. So the first one is the taxation. This basically tells you where you can find your ITR 14, which we'll elaborate on in a little bit. Then it's the lead sheets or lead schedules. This is where your trial balance information is basically summarized and allocated into different sections depending on the links that you've used and the description that you have for them. It will then allocate them into the different lead schedules, which is basically going to be a summary of each one of the categories for your links as well. Then if you do select the working papers, this is where you'll be able to access them. Next is the reports, which includes a client report, which basically tells you about how the client usage in a sense. There's financial data, which is also useful. It produces reports, finalized reports based in PDF format based on your trial balance, general ledger, cash book, and adjusting journals. Then there's also lead schedules, electronic review, and many other options. For those who will need them, they will know exactly what we're talking about. Do not worry, anything I don't elaborate on will be elaborated on in future webinars. Please do give that a look to make sure you know when the webinars are so you can join us for those sessions. The next section I want to cover is the documents. Under documents, Nikki explained there was DigiSign. You can send signature requests through this, or you can use multiple templates which are useful for some of your reporting needs. It is not a requirement. It is just an option available to you. Then I have for you the XBRL. This is basically our in-app XBRL function. It allows you to tag your financials and then produce an iXBRL file to submit to CIPC. This is very useful and will be discussed further in an upcoming webinar, I think around the 5th of February. You definitely want to tune in for that one. Then we have Office Tools. Office Tools here, you'll see there's an import file function option, and then there's multiple in-application tools that you can use. Very fun to use. And then I'll take us to the training videos. This is the same option that you see on your client list screen. It basically takes you directly to our YouTube channel. If you could just give us a follow there, and then you will soon be able to access today's webinar on there, as well as a multitude of other videos that are very helpful for our DraftWorks users. But I'm a guy with a sweet tooth, so my favorite of these extras, the honey of it all, if you will, is the search option. The search option allows you basically to navigate the system in whatever way you want. So I mentioned that we will be looking at client setup and financial data. So let me take us to client setup. I simply type in client setup. It filters for all areas where there are client requirements. So then once I see the one I'm looking for, which is client setup, I can just click on it and immediately it will take me over there. Once you land on your client setup, you will see my company name has already populated. This will come from the name that you type in when you create the client file. You can always edit this to whatever the actual client name is if you prefer to have a different client description on your client list screen as to opposed to the one that will be appearing on your financial statements. I know we are accountants and finance people. We love forms, but this is not an application form. So if there are any spaces which are not useful for your purposes, please do not fill them in. Not applicable will show up as NA in your financials. So just leave it out. Save yourself the headache of having to come back here and remove those kind of things. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in some crucial details because, we need a registration number after all. And then obviously you can also edit the dates. I'm just going to change the date of my approval because this is too far back in the future. We don't live there anymore, fortunately. Scarier times, but yeah, we're doing better these days. So this will be the date of my approval. Oh, sorry, it is Thursday, in fact. And then one other thing I want to take us through is the decimals. This currency rounding option here is where you can set how your figures in the financials disclose. So if you prefer not to include, if you prefer to include decimals in your reporting, we have found that in general, most financial statements are disclosed without and they're rounded. So we've set it automatically to decimals. You are not compelled to do anything by DraftWorks. So it is really up to you to choose. You can choose to have none, so there's no rounding. Decimals will disclose. You can choose decimals where it rounds it up to the closest rand, dollar, yen, whatever currency you may be using. You can choose thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, and for us ambitious people who I know we're all out there, billions as well. One day, guys, we'll get there. And then another thing you can insert is the Java, is the banking details. I'm banking with Java because, got to keep it. We got to keep it simple for ourselves. Keep banking with our favorite Java. And then once you have that set up, you're good to go with the general information. Like I said, if there are details that you do want to include, trading as, place of signature, whatever you want to include, you are more than welcome to. But for my purposes, it's not really useful. So you can also choose or type in the legal form of the entity. If any of these legal forms do not correspond with your client, you can actually insert whatever that legal entity for that company is. Obviously, in instances where you choose a closed corporation framework, it will automatically go to closed corporations instead of private companies or things like that. I will then take us through the nature of the business. So at DraftWorks, we try and make your life as easy as possible. So in this section, all you need to insert is actually the verb and the adjective and the noun. So the verb being, what does the company do? And the noun, to what does it do it? Which you will see, our company sells coffee. So the verb is sells, the noun is coffee. Keep it simple and it's easy for you. Then basically we show you a preview of how you will see this come up on your financial statements. This, for example, has Brewco Pty Limited, the company, which is basically a placeholder for the name of the company for the remainder of the financials. Sells coffee. That's exactly how it will be described, and that's how it will be disclosed in your financials. I don't even need to add a full stop. They've already done it for me. They are about keeping my life easy. And Nick, did say we have a tight deadline, so this is the best tool to use for tight deadlines. Next, we'll be looking at the business address. So our company is located at 1 Wakey Juice Avenue. We are located in the suburb of Morningjolt and in the lovely country of Livelyland. Beautiful place. You should visit, definitely. Don't visit though, you might want to stay, and we're actually quite packed to capacity at the moment. So I remember a client wasn't interested in including a registration date, so I'll leave this blank. But they did say they wanted to include a postal address just in the client setup. They don't necessarily need it in the financials. So instead of me going back and typing all of that in again, we can go ahead and use shortcut. What are we here for? Shortcuts. We need quick things in life, and that's what DraftWorks is about. We're going to deliver another shortcut. You don't need to type anything in. You can just copy the information as it is in your business address, into your postal address, it'll ask you if you're sure, because sometimes, you make a mistake, type something or click something that you shouldn't be. So it always wants to make sure that, are you sure? I am indeed sure. So I'm going to go ahead and input that as well. Next section is our shareholders. These are the most important people in the company. With Bruco, who are the shareholders again? I think it was Miss Espresso. She is a female and she holds 50% of the company. And then there was also Mr. A Coffee, who is a male and holds 50% as well. You'll see that the information comes in. I don't include nationalities because they didn't see a need to include those. But if you do see a need to include nationality, emails, and mobiles, more than welcome to do so. I'm just following my client's request. But one thing you'll note is these little functions here. So these are very useful for when you make a mistake like I just did by actually including Mr. A Coffee after Mrs. Espresso, which actually is not in alphabetical order, and they prefer to show them in alphabetical order. This will also be the signing order in the financials, but we'll get to that in just a second. So I have now set these the shareholders in the alphabetical order as they prefer to be disclosed. And now I'll move on to the directors section. As with most companies that are quite small, they are owner managed. So I don't want to go and type again, but DraftWorks is here to save the day, as they always are. So we're going to go ahead and copy the shareholders' details to my directors, and I'm all sorted. Everything will copy except for the holding, as this will depend on the company structure. So it actually is not gonna copy down as well. So what I was mentioning about the signing order, when you get to your director's responsibilities, you'll see that they sign in the order that they appear in your client setup as well. So if you do have secretarial information and they do want to disclose it, you can include that here. But Mr. Coffee said he doesn't want to read too long, so leave out things that we don't need to include. So I'm going to follow his instructions. But an important part of the client setup, for me especially, is the financial years. Here, you can choose a number of years to present. So we can start from 1 year if it is the company's first year of operation, and we can actually include up to 5 years on our financial statements. The 5 years will only be for the balance sheet, income statement, and the equity. Unfortunately, notes, cash flow, and the detailed income statement will not have this applied to them. This is just because we're always compliant. But should you request that we include them for you, you can come on to remote support or send us a request and we'll assist you in actually making that adjustment. Unfortunately, it will be a manual adjustment, so you will have to contact us in order to do it, unless you become well-versed, which should be the case by the end of the series in DraftWorks. Then you'll be able to do it on your own. Another thing I want to draw your attention to is the tax rates. So obviously we've moved to 27% in South Africa. They chose to be kind to us, so we get to pay a little less tax than before. So I'm going to update that. This information pulls into your tax calculation, and this is what your tax will be calculated based on. Should you ever get stuck and you're not sure why it's actually applying a different rate, please come and check it here as well. One key thing is the year-end section. Please, I beg, please ensure that this always reflects the actual year end of your client. This will be the year end that is reflected on your company's registration. Please use that here. I'll tell you where you can change the year end for your disclosure purposes if you're doing interim periods or management accounts. We'll discuss that. I won't leave you hanging. The year end start, grayed out, it's automatically going to pull based on your prior year end. Then there is the reporting period. You can choose from 1 up to 18. Obviously, legally in certain regions, it's up to a certain point. But yeah, you can choose the reporting period based on your client's year. And then if your client does restate their financial statements, you just need to tick on this option that says restated, and it will apply the restated label for the respective period. Okay, so I did mention that there are places where you can change the date. This you can do by clicking on this financial period override. If you just tick on this, it will then enable this section here where you can update the current year and prior year. Once you have done that, you can go ahead and choose the date that you want to report on. So if you're doing an interim period, you can change the date here. If we're doing perhaps August 2025, you can change that here. If you're doing management accounts, monthly management accounts, you can change the periods for your reporting purposes right in this section. Please pay attention to the prior year as well, because if you leave it as 2021, it will reflect as 2021 in your financial statements. So the next section we just want to look at quickly is the management accounts. This will basically change the wording in your financial statements. As you can see, as soon as I tick it, it goes from annual financial statements to management statements. This is going to be reported on your financial statements and will actually change the descriptions of every sheet, the cover, and everything will all refer to management statements rather than annual financial statements. You can also choose to use the override function if you have a different description, that you prefer to use. Whatever you want to call it, however you want it described, you're more than free to go ahead and edit that there. Then I want to take us to
So for me, for example, we could call our financials the most awesome set of financials you have ever seen.
Honestly, because we don't lie. We're very much about keeping it honest at all times. That's what DraftWorks does. We keep it very, very real, as the kids would say. But for the purposes of this demonstration, we'll leave it annual financial statements because, some people might get lost if they join us a bit late. They might not understand what we're dealing with. But yes, Nicole is very right.
Good to know. Thank you.
100%. Thank you, Nicole. So I want to take us to, now we've covered the additional disclosures. Yes, here you'll find that the country of incorporation has already been disclosed. This is basically pulling because of the settings that you've selected, but you do have a multitude of options to choose from. You actually cannot type in this section because we have tried to cover every country on the planet. If your country is not here, like Lively Land is currently not registered, but we're going to get there. It's just because we're still trying to be incognito for a little bit while we try and accommodate the people who are trying to get visas to our little country. But should you wish to change it to any country, you can go ahead and do so. So what you will see when you update your country of incorporation is that the currency symbol as well as the currency description actually automatically update. We have done research to figure out what are people using when they're in Spain. Oh, okay, it will automatically change it to the euro. And depending on the country, you will automatically update that there. The next thing I want to look at is the disclosure type. You can actually change from IFRS for SME to basis of accounting, should that suit your reporting needs. And then there's a host of information you can also input, should it be necessary for your reporting purposes. I'm going to put in the tax number, but everything else they said they don't need because they just need the tax number so that their bankers know that they are, in fact, the same person they claim to be from their registration. Apparently, banks do check that. I don't know why they do anything, but hey, we don't judge. We don't judge here at DraftWorks. We love everybody. So yeah, if you do have further details you want to include and you want them disclosed in your financials, you can go ahead and input them there. Then there's the holding company, should your company be a subsidiary, and the ultimate holding company. If you're in a group, you can go ahead and input those details in there as well. You'll see that you just click on it and you can type in whatever you need in order to show who is your parent, who is your mother, who is your greatest mother, however they describe it. I haven't been in practice for a little bit. You'll find that I'm a little rusty when it comes to these terms. And then the framework that you've chosen, as well as the working papers, will be disclosed here. This is grayed out because you do not change the framework in here, but we will touch on where you do that in the course of this series. So the next thing, contact information again. Should you want to, you can include it. Like I said, they're not trying to put further details in here in case creditors start calling because you put all your personal information here. They want to just keep it quite confidential in that instance. So one thing I wanted to note was the firm details. So with the firm details, it is usually used to describe the entity that is going to be signing the financials. So in most instances, it will be your auditors, your reviewers, and your compilers. In our instance, we have both a compiler and an external auditor. So we're going to choose to make the details of our auditor the ones that disclose here because but these will pull in from your settings automatically. So currently, if I were to go to my financials, you'd see it currently reads as Bruco and all the details that I've inserted in my settings. But because we're actually working with an external auditor who will be providing us with an audit report, we edit those details in here, and you'll see that the references to auditors will be made to audit and a box of cookies. Sorry if anyone's getting hungry. Nicole, did you say we've received those details from the auditors yet on who's signing and all those other details?
Hey, Booms, actually, no, they're still getting back to us. So I think we can always come back and sort this out on Thursday towards the end of it. But just put in what we do have. I think we've got their address and just their name. We'll find out who's signing off on Thursday.
And they are registered auditors.
100% yes.
Awesome. Well, that option is under our firm type. You can either type in or you can actually just choose from the drop down. I am a person of efficiency, as you may have learned by now. So I'm going to go ahead and just choose the option that is provided for me in the drop down. Then I'm going to insert the address. It is 123 Cookie Lane. These people are very sweet. I don't know if you know this, but our auditors are the sweetest. And they are obviously from Cookie Land, a neighboring island to us. So yeah, we often visit them. Very, very sweet people. Lovely, lovely people. You guys will see for yourselves in due course. So I did mention that we have an additional practice that will be actually compiling the financial statements. This is, well, technically they are internally compiled, but it's just that we need to include the details of our company as well as our firm signatory, who is the ever so lively Mrs. Espresso. She will report as she's the only one, and the designation is partner. I'm going to input her role as the compiler of the financials in here. If you put in any other description, that's how it will read on your financial statements. If you want to describe her as absolutely anything else, you are more than welcome to do so. She is qualified as a CA. She crossed that hurdle in her life, and we're so proud of her. Then we'll just include the signing date as well. They did, as I previously mentioned, indicate that they're going to be signing on Thursday. So let me just get through this so that we can have those available for them. So then I have my address for my compiler. She's going to be working out of our office, so obviously that will be the same details. And obviously from the lovely lively land. 7. So now that I've inputted all of those details for her, we're ready to go ahead and have a look at the visual option. Here, I just want to point out a couple things that are cool and most frequently asked about. So say you have a company that doesn't want to disclose their statement of financial position or balance sheet in the generic format with the non-current assets and current assets being split, and they prefer to have it in order of liquidity. You can choose that option. Right here, there's a drop down where you can just select that. And then there's also the, yes, you have the option to combine your accounting policies with your notes. That you will find right here. So you can either keep them separate, so it will be on separate sheets. One, you'll have the accounting policies listed in whole, and then you'll have the notes following that. In this instance where you combine them, you'll have the accounting policies. The accounting policies will then pull in, so you'll have the accounting policy, and just below it will be the actual note. So if you have PPE accounting policy, it will list out the accounting policy, and then just below it will disclose all of the reconciliations for your PPE and other details as you may find fit to disclose. So yeah, those are the ones I just wanted to point out. Those are my faves, and I absolutely need those to be correct at all times. Then I want to take us to the visual. After layout is the visual. So under visual, you will see we have an option to invert our debits and our credits. What this means is for those clients who prefer to show their expenses as positive amounts rather than having them bracketed to indicate they're negative, you can tick here to then disclose them as a positive amount. It won't make your credits, it won't make your income negative. It will remain as positives, but then you can just go ahead and then change your expenses to be positive as well. The maths will still work properly. It will still apply as though you're working with normal bracketed expenses. Nothing will be affected by that. I then want to take us to the signature date settings. Then, oh, before I go there, there's also the merging of the admin and distribution expenses. This is the option where you combine your admin expenses to the other expenses to disclose them as one thing, so that everything shows as under other expenses. We're still going to hear from Mrs. Espresso about the combining of the expenses. Please just let me know when I get to the detailed income statement. When I get to the statement of comprehensive income, what they've said on that, Nikki. If you can call them in the meantime.
I'll give them a call. By the time you get there, we should have some news.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Nikki. Okay, so after that, there is this signature date setting. So with Draftworks, you can either include the date, as you've said above, in the date session that we looked at, or you can, for those clients who are going to keep coming back and you don't want to have a set date because then you might forget to change the date, or they just actually want to input the date on the day in which they sign, you can go ahead and include a blank line, which will allow them to then sign, input the amounts themselves in order to show those, to show the signature date or disclose the signature date as they prefer. And then we have, oh yes, the description of the framework is also a key one for me. This is how the framework will be described in your financial statements. You can change this as well so that you're able to just disclose it as you prefer. Then the next option is the statement of comprehensive income, function, nature. If you're dealing with an IFRS client, the IFRS 17 option will also be available here so that you disclose those financials in terms of that preference. Then you'll have your cash flow type, which is indirect or direct. It's automatically set to indirect. So if you prefer the direct, you can come and change that here as well. Next up is the naming convention. So this is basically what the descriptions in your financials will be. So if we're talking about your entity, this is how it will be described as company. If you're dealing with a cooperative or any other form of entity, you can edit those details and replace company with those details here. This is basically a global search and find and replace option on your financials. You can go ahead and then change those details in here, and then you will be able to, those will apply all across your financial statements. So if you do have another, a different act that is applicable to your company, you can change those here as well. If you have an additional act that's applicable, you can include those details in here as well. And then you can change multiple descriptions in your naming conventions, including the board of directors, the description of your distributions, issued capital and equity. You can also choose between profit or loss or surplus or deficit for those who use body corporates and non-profit organizations. You also have a choice of a multitude of descriptions for your management, or in the cases where you want, you can choose to type it in. You're more than welcome to do so. This is the same for your shareholders as well. So this is the bottom of my client setup. But I'm not done. I just want to show you one more thing. I don't want to scroll all the way back up to the top when I forget to do something at the top. So DraftWorks has actually provided this cool menu option here, which you can click to navigate your client setup as well. Further to this, there's also this search or filter function that's in your client setup. This allows you to actually just filter for a specific section. So if I want to rename my board, and I don't know where to find it, I can go ahead and search it and it will come up and I will go ahead and then update the details as I prefer. It's all just about your convenience, which is why we are here. So, well, I've covered the client setup. I'm gonna now take us to the meat or the coffee of the whole thing. Let us go ahead and have a look at the financial data. Here you'll find your working trial balance, journals, cash book function, as well as your financial statements. So for me and our client, we need to go ahead and start looking at the working trial balance so that we can get these financials rolling. So when you land on your working trial balance, you'll see there's a multitude of options. It might seem like things are confusing or you're not sure what's going on. If you're seeing it for the first time, it won't immediately click what's happening or what's what. So let me introduce you to a few things. Obviously, when you land, it will automatically have your current year disclosed. But if you do want to include additional years, you can go ahead and use the add prior year function, which will allow you to add as many prior years as you'd like. So I have a preference for ease and convenience. So what I do is I import as many trial balances as I can, but the recommended amount is three. Why three? It's just because it helps a lot when it comes to dealing with notes and cash flow, which will have information that needs to pull in from prior years in order to reconcile best. So I'm going to input a couple more prior years in order for us to be able to work best with the system. Then you'll see once I move on from this, there's a few options called quick assign. This has to do with our links. We'll see that in a moment. Then you have multiple import options. You can import from any of these applications on your desktop, which are maintained on your desktop. Or for our online users, there's also the direct import, which allows you to import directly from QuickBooks, Sage, and Zero, which will be online. There's a few benefits and very nice added features that you can access with these, but I'm not here to spoil anything. Like I said, we'll leave that for Thursday. Please do join us on Thursday as well. For our clients' purposes, there is the spreadsheet import, which allows us to import an Excel-based trial balance, hence this little logo. I'm going to go ahead and choose it now, and you'll see it immediately takes me to my files. In this instance, I have the file already open, fortunately, so I can go ahead and go and select the relevant trial balance. If you do have your file somewhere else, you can navigate your device to find it, but I have it open already. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the trial balance. I'll open it. Then you'll find that when you land here, there are there's multiple options for you. There are some options that are required. For instance, we are looking at the account number, account name, the debit, and the credit. These need to be assigned for your trial balance. So I'm going to go ahead and assign those now. I'm going to start with the account number. One thing about the account number, I know it says account number, but contrary to this description, the account number does not, in fact, have to be a number. All we need is for it to be a unique description for the account. So it can be in words, it can be in numbers, it can be in a mixture. It just needs to be unique. And another thing is that it needs to be consistent. So the account number you're going to use for sales coffee in 2024 needs to be the same account number in every year following that, just so that you can always have that comparative coming in appropriately. Then the account name, not too many parameters or descriptions on that. And then finally, there is the debit and credits. My debits and credits are currently split, but you can also assign them even if they're in one column. The system is pretty smart. It knows how to work with that. I'll show you that in a second. So once I have assigned all of these, you will see that my from row is starting from 4. The reason for this is that I actually want only the financial information. So all of the account number details and headings and everything are useless for my purposes. If you select it, you'll have to delete it when you get to the financials. So I just start where the information I need starts from. Another thing to note is you can import into the opening balance, which is not necessarily the opening balance as you would think of it. It's more of the original trial balance that has been imported before any adjustments are made on DraftWorks. It is sometimes going to reflect opening balances, but it's not necessarily opening balances. So you'll see that my credits match my debits. So I'm happy that my trial balance actually balances. There's 27 rows, which means there's 27 accounts. I'm going to go ahead and import. Okay, once you've imported 2024, again, I'm going to import a couple more times. I'm going to import 2025 now. I don't have a 2025 available, but I do have 2026, which includes the 2025. I can use this 2025 column in order to do my mapping, and I can still use the account number and account name, even though it looks like it might be related to 2026. It should still work the same way because, like I said, it's consistent. So I'm going to go ahead and do my signing. I'll assign the same column for both my debits and credits. When I do this, the system automatically picks up what is a credit and what is a debit based on how it is described. So if it has a negative, it immediately is going to be denoted as a credit. If it has a positive, it will be read as a debit. You'll see again, it balances. This time it's doing the math for me because it's not two different columns. So I can go ahead and import. Okay, one more time, just to get my 2026 in. Trust me, it seems like a tedious process now, but it saves you so much time when it comes to reconciling the figures on your financial statements.
For me,
Yeah,
just double check, are you sure you're importing 2026 into 2026's tax year?
oh my
I know that
goodness.
sometimes I always get it confused.
That's right, Nikki. And I can see exactly where I'm importing because it is the year that is highlighted. So I didn't click on 2026, but let me just make sure I do this time. Thank you so much, Master.
So just to kind of get it out there, I'm assuming I always have to be on the tax year that I am doing, right?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So if you're importing into 2025, 2026, 2024, you need to actually ensure that you are in that tax year. So one thing you can do a check while you're doing the import, as Nikki indicated. I was in 2025, but it's actually 2026 I'm trying to import into. In this instance, you can see my 2026 is highlighted, so I can go ahead and import into the correct period now. Thanks a bunch.
You know, I make that mistake all the time, and then I end up having to redo all of this. You know?
Yeah, like I said, we're here to save you so much time, and Nikki is just evidence of that yet again. Okay, so I have my trial balances in. Like I said, you can just import 1 year and go ahead and start drafting. It's up to you, but I prefer the 3 for my convenience. I'm gonna go ahead and go to my financials now. Oh, no, what is this about? So you'll see this warning link when your trial balance does not balance or your accounts have not been linked. So what does it mean when they talk about linking? Well, this is how DraftWorks identifies the information in your working trial balance and allocates it accordingly in your financial statements. In, I guess, a simpler way of putting it, it's a code that translates how and where our accounts should be disclosed in the financials. So where do we go? How do we go about doing this linking? Well, you will see this quick assign I was talking about. There is an option called show hide links. This will then split your screen between your working trial balance as well as the actual link numbers. you'll see if you're looking on the right-hand side, there are thousands of links that are available. This can be a bit overwhelming, but do not panic. There are indeed thousands of these links because there are endless disclosure possibilities, and this might seem daunting, but we can make it a little easier for you. So let's go ahead and break this down into bite-sized chunks so we can eat this elephant-sized cake. What I'm going to do is show you a little trick because there is the filter option, but I want to show you another way that you might be able to filter your categories. By clicking on the category heading and then dragging it, I can drop it on top of my link. And then this basically summarizes what I'm looking at. Once I have this sort of summary, I can see that I'm actually working with 20 categories. And if you just have a look, you'll see there are these brackets all over the place. These brackets are a shorthand for the actual category. So every cost of sale link will have COS. Every current link, C. Every discontinued operation, DO. Equity will be Q. Expenses, E. And income, I. And so on and so forth. So one thing I want us to note quickly before I move on is the C account as well as the N. You'll see that there is CA, which is current assets, CL, which is current liabilities. So why is there just C? Are we just current? No. This is what we call flexible links. These are most suited for your accounts that have varying balances from year to year. So things like your bank account, your VAT, your tax, which might be a debit in one year and a credit in another year, can use these links as they are able to then read the actual balance. And then if it's a credit, it will allocate itself to the liabilities. If it is a debit, it will then automatically go and sit under your assets. Basically, if you see a C, it's for your convenience. So you don't have to keep on chasing these links year on year. So now I've filtered this and I started by explaining that there are these shorthand things here. Where do they come from? Well, they are also under your link numbers. So your link number will have the prefix of that shorthand, and you will be able to navigate your links. If you once you know the shorthand, you'll be able to navigate your links a bit better. So, for example, if I'm looking for a cost of sales link, I can go ahead and filter for them. You'll see it's still quite a daunting task for me because there's still 545 links to choose from. But let's say I'm working with purchases. I've got coffee bean purchases. So I'm going to go ahead and look for the coffee. Did I spell coffee wrong? What? What do you mean? Purchases? Oh, no. Well, there isn't a purchases link. There isn't a coffee link. So at this point, I give up and I just move on. I'm going to call Nikki and tell her it's over. No, never. Never give up. Never, ever give up. This is a lesson for life and for Draftworks. Please always just take a moment, breathe, allow yourself to just come back to yourself, please. So our links will not always cater for your specific link account description, but this doesn't mean you can't actually have the information disclosed, because our links serve as an address for whatever you wish to disclose in your financials. So I know my account should be linked to cost of sales. So I can then use any cost of sales account, which will be appropriate because it's a best match situation. I don't have any other cost of sales, but I do have cost of sales. So I can go ahead and use these cost of sales links. One thing I just want us to note is we have the prefix for cost of sales. Then we have this main disclosure, which is the 000 before the dot. And then we have the sub disclosure, which is the 001. If I'm working with multiple cost of sales links, which is the case in this instance, I always just think back to the fact that I do need to have my sales and cost of sales descriptions matching so that where they are directly linked, they can also talk to each other. But let me not ramble. I'm just going to explain something quick to you. The COS 000 is one line item on my financial statement. The next line item will be segregated at the point where the 000 changes. So where does that happen? At 001. So this will be the next line item. So if I choose anything within this grouping, it will all show under one line. But as soon as I go into the next main disclosure, I'm able to then separate my links. Let me just show you an example. So if I'm working with the coffee beans and I want them to be separated, I can go ahead and choose this link by double clicking on it. Obviously, I didn't click on my cost of sales on my coffee beans purchases. Hence, it will go to the first available link when I double click there. So to avoid this, you can also drag the links. So I'll click on it and drag on it, and then I'll just go and apply my link to milk purchases, for example. So what about this now? How do I remove this link? Well, you don't actually have to remove the link. You can always change it. I know I'm looking for an income link in this instance. And what income links are available? I see that there's a bunch of them. I want a sale of coffee. Again, not available. So what do? I can actually edit my disclosure description so that I can show coffee. But because I remember that my cost of sales and my sales need to actually disclose with the same link, I will go ahead and update that to coffee instead, so that when I do change my description for the cost of sales, I'll use coffee there as well. I've now updated the link, so I'll press enter. I'll click on the actual link I want to click. Then when I double press here, it will then apply as I want it to. Okay. So I don't want the milk and coffee to be linked to the same thing. So what I'll do is I'll correct this link as well. Go ahead and choose the next available link so that it shows on its own line. This will be my milk line. I'll go ahead and link that there. But this is taking quite a bit of time. And like I said, we're here for quick solutions. So I'm going to go ahead and fix my links first and foremost. But let's first actually show you how to link multiple links at one time. I am looking for a repairs and maintenance link because my repairs and maintenance are basically one expense, but they're disclosed in multiple accounts, but I want them to show as one line. How do I do this? I can search for repairs and maintenance. It filters them. You'll see there's repairs and maintenance under current asset, repairs, and expenses. I want the expense, so I'm going to go ahead and choose the expense. I've highlighted all of the accounts that I want to have the same link. So I'm going to go ahead now and double click on that. And now it will apply to all of these links. But again, what happens with the rest of my links that don't have this grouping going on? Now what? Well, for your automation needs, we do provide the automatic linking and smart linking. The automatic linking is based on the QuickBooks, Sage, as well as Xero chart of accounts. It links them to the best description, and it will then apply them automatically for you. And then there's the smart linking that is available. Obviously, I did import an Excel file, so smart linking is most appropriate for my purposes. I'll then click on the smart linking. It'll ask me if I'm sure, because I might not be sure. And then I'll go ahead and confirm I'm sure, and then the smart linking will apply. This works on a confidence-based level. You'll see that it is actually indicating that there's a 69% confidence level on the overall linking that it's done. You are going to be required to actually go ahead and review the linking that's done. If you do the automatic linking or smart linking, it's done the linking for you. All you need to do is go ahead and check that the linking is appropriate. So for instances where the linking isn't appropriate, you can go ahead and edit it. But for instances where it's not confident, but it is right, you don't need to change it. For example, this depreciation, it is a depreciation linked to motor vehicles mostly, because That's how our accountant has done it. We'll talk more about the depreciation in a little bit. So I will leave this, even though it's a very low confidence level. The greens are very high chances of correction. So the bank charges is actually linked to bank charges. You'll see my finance interest is linked to finance interest. One thing to note with the finance interest is we do provide linking specific to for your cash flow purposes. So wherever you do want your interest paid to be disclosed, you can actually choose that on by choosing the specific link, and then the interest will be drawn to either your financing activities or operating activities as you prefer. But I'm happy with that. There's one link here, the cake, that I actually want to correct because it picks up as though cake would be one of my main one of my main purchase areas, and it's not. We're not eating that much cake, but we do eat quite a bit because we're huge fans, but we don't sell it for our business, so it's not cost of sales. So I'm going to go ahead and find an expense link. Cake doesn't exist, but there should be other expenses, and there is. So I can use this other expenses link to then input my cake. I will go ahead and choose that link. Where did this window come from? I don't even know. He didn't say anything about this window. It just popped up. I gotta apologize. The window can be accessed by going ahead and clicking on this double arrow next to your account name. You will go ahead, search in the same way that you would do with the show hide link. The links are also listed in the same way. You can filter them for your purposes as I've explained. So I'm going to change this to coffee. And you can either double click to select, or you can just click on the select option right here. And then the other section that we need to just make sure of are these other ones. Oh, no, definitely the machine is not going to be a cost of sales. This is actually an asset. I see there is an NA applied to it, and it's got NA 084, which is other fixed assets. That's where the accumulated depreciation for this asset has been assigned. So we can go ahead and make this our coffee machine. Enter, and we'll double click on that. And then finally, I'm happy with the accumulated depreciation, and especially since I've now applied the accumulated the cost to my accumulated to the same link as my accumulated depreciation, which is coffee machine. I want to check a few more of these. My shareholders loan is not a receivable, especially because it is in credit. So I'm going to go ahead and link it to shareholder. Nope, again, nothing there. But what about owners? Owners, there is an owners link. They have been carrying this and will continue carrying it. So I'm going to go ahead and make it a non-current. Oh, sorry, Nikki, is it actually still non-current? Have they said anything? Because I remember an email about something like that.
Oh, hey, Pumi, sorry, I was on mute and I was talking to you, actually talking to myself, clearly. The clients actually did just give me a heads up now. While you're doing this, I'm quickly checking all the, behind the scenes stuff. They've said to me they're going to settle that loan. Mr. Coffee no longer wants to have any, outstanding debt. They want to settle it this year. How are we going to be able to do that without affecting last year's disclosure?
Oh, man.
Have we got a trick?
Yeah. In fact, this is DraftWorks, Nikki. Is that even a question? Come now. Where have you been this whole day? So we're going to go ahead
to
and...
Mr. Coffee.
Sorry, I know he will keep you busy. We can go ahead and search for our owner links again. You'll see that there's actually a C available for our owner link, which is the current portion of the same link. Fun fact, you will already have it applied for you. So you don't need to update the disclosure description when you do change between non-current and current, when you have a link that's chosen that has a corresponding current or non-current link. So I'm going to go ahead and choose it. So now that I've chosen my current link, instead of double clicking or selecting it, I will go to the current only option, which will only impact my current period. So since it is going to be settled in the current year, I'm going to go ahead and choose current only. You'll then see it automatically changes to C there, and I'll go back to 2025, for example, and show you the shareholder loan remains non-current in every other period. So I also noticed that I actually...
While you're changing a link there, so what I really love seeing and what I really love about this process, considering we have to give dear old Mr. Coffee his financials by Thursday, is we're actually catching up 3 tax years in one simple linking process.
Yes.
Yeah, this is so impressive.
So
that's why I love my job.
So once you do you do actually allocate your 1 year of linking, it will automatically apply to the remainder of the years that are on your file. You do not have to go back and then link 2021, 2022, or 2023, 2024, 2025. You just have it applied across the board. The only time where you'd have to attend to the linking again is if there are additional links that are created during the period. Then in that case, you would definitely have to go ahead and update those links, but it will be only the links that are new in that period. So once you have them going forward, they will then be available for linking at that point. So all of this coffee and milk talk and cake talk has got me quite famished, and I'm thinking maybe Nikki, we can take a little break.
Yeah, Pumi, I mean, you guys know me at Draftworks. I'm always list for a piece of cake. So that cake that Shane had in the oven, it's actually ready. So I don't know if you want to meet me in the kitchen and we can go enjoy some double decadent chocolate cake.
You do not have to ask me twice. You had me in the kitchen.
In that breath as well, it'll give all our lovely participants an option to go stretch their legs, get some coffee, some water, maybe some cake or cookies. I mean, I had cookies last year, but cake is a definite improvement. And then we can reconvene in 10 minutes.
Awesome. Thanks, Nikki.
Welcome back, everybody. Before we dive back into those financials, I'm just going to give everyone a second to settle. There's something I just want to cover. I know that in the beginning of the webinar, I know I'm going to sound like a little bit of a broken record here, but I know how life happens. Some might have joined late. Some might have missed this notice, as it is one of the important notices and change that we are experiencing this year. I do just want to highlight it again. But before I do highlight it, I also just want to remind everyone, we are recording. So please be assured that you will have access to a recording once it has all been finalized. And we will let everyone know when we are going to share that. Then my little notice. So again, I do apologize for sounding like a little bit of a broken record. I have that tendency. Everyone knows me at Draftworks. So just want to let you know regarding WebSync again. So when we created WebSync, we opened it during our COVID times to assist all our clients through that horribly difficult time. Okay, we've been absorbing the costs as much as we possibly could over those years. We are, however, going to be extending the features tied into WebSync, such as permissions. And on Thursday, I'll show you a nice little function that we've recently incorporated, as well as moving to better infrastructure to improve the service and the security. This is going to, however, impact costing to an extent that we fully cannot absorb it anymore. We do know that WebSync is loved and used, so we will limit the impact as much as possible. We will be including a free tier that will facilitate your work in progress. So if you choose not to take the full use of WebSync, your work in progress is going to be taken care of at no additional cost. And once completed, it can then be moved off to your cold storage. All right. Now, I don't know about you guys, but my coffee was brewtastic. That cake, my word, double decadent. I'm definitely going to be putting some pounds on after this session. But you know what? That deadline isn't going away as much as that cake is enjoyable. So, Pumi, would you please help me on?
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Nikki. And thank you, Shane. You are a legend, Mr. Cake himself. We appreciate everyone at DraftWorks. I just want to get confirmation again. Are we back live? Can we see my screen?
Yes, I'm good to go. I see a few thumbs up from our lovely attendees. I was going to say our
Much.
contestants. Well, but attendees they are, yes. We can see.
If they
Thanks,
are
Pumi.
contestants, since they were DraftWorks, they are winning already. So,
I
um,
100%.
So I'm going to go ahead and just explain one last thing in the trial balance that I think is a cool feature. So say you have a client who has multiple streams of income and they want to disclose them separately for their own budgeting and reporting purposes. You can go ahead and actually split the income statement transactions per the relevant income statement that they'll be using. So if you sell coffee in one segment and maybe we're expanding and then we do start selling cake instead of eating it internally, you can also then split those costs and incomes to the respective income statement by just selecting that income statement using this drop down option next to your type description. Just a cool note, and want to go ahead and since now I've linked my TB, I am good to start brewing. Sorry, drafting. Let's go ahead and open our financials again. This time there isn't any warning. It's just all good, and we're back to seeing what we're here for. So when you land on your financial statements, you'll notice that there are multiple sheets that you have available. You can navigate these by just clicking on the arrows at the bottom of your screen. Then you will see the full complement of sheets that are available in your financial statements. But what are all of these? Let's go ahead and see exactly what is contained in our financials. You will see under the content tab. It will have the full list of sheets that are active. How do I know they're active? You will see that all active cells, which means they're printing in my financial statements, will have this dark blue shading on them. And when they're not active, they will go white instead. So I see that I go all the way to notes 4, which isn't in my financials, but notes 3 is. My financials don't end at notes 3. They actually go on to include a detailed income statement, ratios, tax calc, etc. So where's that? Well, you'll see there's a little arrow to the far right of your screen. If you click on that, you will then be able to access the additional sheets that are available in your financials. So remember I mentioned a little feature called the ITR 14. This is actually available in your financial statements. You are able to use the ITR 14 to submit for your tax returns, or you can print this ITR 14 as you see it and provide it to your tax department for them to complete the returns for you. Depending on how you work with that, this is available for you to use. The information in your ITR 14 pulls from your incomes, your trial balance, as well as your tax calculation. We'll actually look into that in a little bit. But since I am actually not going to be focusing on the ITR 14 at this point, we still need to finalize the financials. I'm just going to turn it off because I don't need it. But those of us who deal with sustainability reporting, there is a template available for your convenience. You can use this, edit it, and then provide it for when you need to report on it. We are not going to be using that. So I'm going to turn that off. I also don't need the ratios, but they are available. And what else do I not need? Report Psycho, not going to use it. Report Officer, not going to use it. Mrs. E Espresso is actually compiling, so I need that report. But the report review won't be necessary since we are in an audit engagement. So if I go back now, I'm able to see the full list of my sheets is visible to me because I've taken out unnecessary sheets. But what is this checklist that I'm looking at here? What is that about? Well, the checklist is there for your reporting purposes. So it actually provides you with a list of the standards based on your chosen framework. In this instance, that would be the IFRS for SMEs. It lists the full complement of standards that are actually applicable. And when you open the relevant standard, you'll see the disclosures that are necessary in terms of the standards. If you scroll down, you'll see that you can actually navigate to see where am I addressing the disclosure requirements as per the standards, and then it will automatically take you to the place in the financial statements where that is being addressed. So you'll see my PPE is being addressed under note 4. The details are here, so I have that available to me. Okay, I'm pretty confident that the checklist is sorted, and I don't need to actually look further into it. So I can go ahead and turn that off. Then you'll see that I am left with the status sheet, which is still another one I'm not quite familiar with. The status sheet is basically a final check for you. It is sort of we call it the partner's best friend, and sometimes the trainees hate it, but it doesn't have to be an enemy. It is actually there to tell you that the information in your trial balance doesn't fully correspond or reconcile to the information that you're disclosing in the financial statements, particularly in the notes or other sections that will be listed when there are differences. So, for example, we have a difference in our cash flows and PPE. With the cash flow, one thing you always need to note is you should do it last. Why do we say this? Because some of the differences in your cash flow may not actually be a result of differences contained in the cash flow itself, but rather emanate from other sections in your financial statements. So for instance, the difference in your cash flow will most commonly be the sum of all of the differences that are contained in these sections that are highlighted here. So once you address these differences, you will then be able to see that your cash flow actually doesn't have its own inherent differences, and these differences are emanating from other places. What do I even mean by this? I'll show you that in just 1 second. I just wanted to show you one more thing with regard to this PPE difference that you'll see here. The property, plant, and equipment recon is not reconciling. So this you will also see when you open your statement of financial position. It tells you that there's a possible note mismatch. This says what we're disclosing in our statement of financial position doesn't exactly correspond to what we have in our note. This is because the figures don't speak exactly to each other, and you will need to actually make adjustments as necessary. So how do I get to my note? There is this hyperlink available that will directly take me to the note. It drops me off at the PPE note, and then I can go ahead and have a look at what might be going on in this note. So you'll see that there are some differences. When I come down here, there's a difference column. This is always hidden, so you won't see it when you print your financials, but the inaccuracy will still exist if there are amounts that are sitting in this row right here. So I'll go ahead and just scroll further, and I'll see exactly the full extent of the differences in my financial statements. So one thing you can do is have a simple understanding of these notes would be to note that you have an opening balance section for the respective years. The opening balance, as I mentioned previously, will pull in from your prior year trial balances. So when you have information from prior periods, it automatically pulls in here, and then it will populate for you. You do not have to go and type amounts in unless it is the case that you actually do not have prior period trial balances. Then you can override. What do I mean by you can override? I mean, you will see that there are these dark blue cells that are available. These cells are available for you to edit as you may need. We don't recommend always editing them because they will affect certain periods. So, for example, if it has a formula, the formula is there to assist you. But if you actually don't have the information in your trial balance, the formula is pretty useless. So you can go ahead and override it in that instance. This is not a ticket to go ahead and override anything else in your financial statements. For example, you'll see there are these white cells that are not editable. Why is this not editable? Because this is formula driven, and it's pulling in from, it will always pull in from your trial balance. it sort of assists you to have the most accurate information without having to go in and do manual interventions every time. The only time we'll need manual interventions is for balance sheet movements, because balance sheet movements can be quite complex. So, for example, if you have an asset cost moving in a year, we can't ascertain whether they've been the extent of the disposals that have been made or purchases that have been made in a year. So we leave that up to you to fill in. But the income statement movements we can determine, because there is a link specifically for income statement as well as for the income statement. You'll see this again in certain instances, like in your statement of changes in equity, but we'll discuss that in a little bit. So you'll see I said there's an amount here, it's locked, I can't edit it. So it's more than likely accurate because it's pulling in from my financials. So if it's here and it's locked, I just need to investigate my TB to make sure that the amount in there is correct. It might be a linking issue. It might be the value is not correct. We need to just determine that. So when I come down to the closing balance, this also pulls from my TB, but it will pull in from the current year. Or in this instance, since we are looking at the closing period of 2025 and I'm in 2026, it's still pulling in from the prior year. I will look at this and see that I have 280,000 at the beginning of 2025 and then 330,000 at the end. I know Mr. Coffee bought a little delivery van in the year. So I'm going to go ahead and add the amount because he told me it was 50,000. I'm going to go ahead and add that amount. Awesome, 50,000, that's my additions. So I've accounted for the movements in my assets this year. So it should be good to go. But you'll see there's still a difference in there. You know what? I'm going to address that in a second. Let me see what's happening with my my other difference, which is the coffee machine. So if I look at my coffee machine, at the beginning of the year, I had 350,000. At the end, it's 350,000. But there's a 35,000 here that actually has not been addressed. I'm not quite sure what this is about. Let me see if there's any other additions I can take care of before I start actually diving deep into figures that might confuse me. If I look at my current year, I'll see that 2025 ended with 350,000 as we noted, but 2026 actually ended with 377,000. Yes, I remember there was another coffee equipment that they bought. I can definitely include that as an adjustment. So that would be 27,000 if I remember correctly. And I remember there was also another vehicle that they added in the year. So we go from 330,000 to 415. That would be an addition of, math in my head, 85,000. Awesome. Just include that there, because I know that they didn't have any disposals. But again, there's this difference that is sitting here, and I'm actually baffled as to what it relates to. Nikki, was there anything wrong with the depreciation?
As far as I can remember, I think it was calculated correctly, but we include the depreciation only in one line on the trial balance.
Oh, that's it. Yes, I remember. The accountant was super lazy and they just created one depreciation account in the accounting system. So when they imported it on our side, it was also the case that we only had one depreciation line. Well, what happens now? Well, you have a couple of options in an instance like this. First one would be to go ahead. Well, this isn't in any particular order, but I'm just going to explain them in this specific order. I'm going to go ahead and actually pass a journal to split the depreciation for our purposes. How you do this is you go to your financial data, then you can access journal right here. But you're also able to access journals with these shortcuts up here. If you click on this directly from the financials, it will take you to the same place. Just always ensure you are working in the appropriate tax period. I've already made that mistake today, so I'm going to make sure I'm in 2026 and I need to do a journal that is going to split my depreciation. Depreciation. I don't think it matters the spelling. We're here for the numbers. So we'll go ahead and input. You do need to include a description for your journal. Once I've included a description, all the other entries are really just up to your preference if you do want to include them or not. Then once I've entered the description, I'll press enter. It then provides me with this section here where I can either scroll to find the respective account, or I can search for it by using this double arrow, which will then pop up with the menu of accounts. I said I'm looking for depreciation, and that is the case here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and select the depreciation. I'll double click on it, or you can just select it and press the select option. So since I am trying to pass a credit against depreciation, I'm going to minus 368,000. Pretty sure that was a month. Enter, and then I have my first line item. At the production of this first line item, you'll note that there is a caution sign. Caution sign, danger, khafa. Please pay attention to these things. They are very important. So what this says is your journal actually doesn't balance. So that is the caution. That is the danger. Please beware. Pasop, as a belief. So what now happens is I'll need to actually include a debit entry so that my journal does balance. How do I do this? Okay, well, I'm going to go search for the depreciation link. Oh, but then I remember the accountant didn't include one. So I'll need to create a new depreciation link. How do I do this? I can do this actually by using my menu option here. You'll see it says add trial balance entry here. What does that mean? Exactly that. Add the trial balance entry. I'll need to include an account. Remember, it needs to be an account number, which is unique. So I'm just going to choose depreciation 1 just because that's what I'm dealing with. And it's going to be depreciation for my coffee machine.
And for me, while you're adding that,
sure.
I noted you mentioned spelling, and I am absolutely terrible at it. So for any of us that do semi-struggle, I can't even say it properly now, semi-struggle with spelling, please join in on the advanced session. We have a lovely new feature within the system that can assist you if you are like me, who happens to have a terrible spelling error. Okay.
Awesome. We love you nonetheless, Nikki.
But, thank you.
Onto my links. So with the linking, you saw that the depreciation actually pulled in against the motor vehicles. That's because the link that was chosen is specifically for motor vehicles. So if I go ahead and search for my links, I know the links off by heart by now. I know that it is an expense. I also know that my main disclosure is a 900 link, which is all the depreciation links. I further know that my asset link was an NA0084. So I'll include that as well. Bit complicated. This is for when you get to master the system. You'll be more familiar with these things. If you're more comfortable with that, you can go ahead and do that. But then again, you can always just search for the asset description. So it was other fixed assets, as you see. I'm just going to go ahead and select that. Now that I have included all the details, being my account number, my account name, and the link, I can press enter. It then creates the account for me. And I have the account which I can choose right here. I'll go ahead and select it. And then I'll go ahead and enter the debit side, which will not have a negative. And now tick, green ticks. Green is the color, not just of money in some places, but of the good things in DraftWorks. Filters are green. When you're good to go, it's green. This is what you want to see. If you see red, if you see orange, unless it's your search bar, please beware. I'm going to go ahead and go.
Don't forget you get green coffee. You also get green coffee these days. I mean, green is good to go.
Yeah, straight out of you, I heard, but that's another story. I'm going to go ahead and go to the financials now, going back to our notes so that we see what has this actually done. What I did was pass an adjustment against my depreciation, which reduced it from the amount it was of 100,700. Almost had a Zoomer moment, for those who know. but now we have corrected that. You'll make note that my difference row is now clear, which means I'm good to go. But am I really? I can always go back to my status to check. I have cleared the difference. I will now go ahead and go to the note again using this quick access here. I still have a difference in the depreciation now. Why does this not pull to my status though? This is because the difference is actually being allocated across two places and they net off of each other. So you could be correct and you might have the impression that you are correct in your status, but that status is speaking to the carrying amounts. The carrying amounts are accurate when you net them off of each other. But when you come into the minutiae of the details, you'll see that I haven't actually corrected the difference for my coffee machine and motor vehicles specifically. And this is in relation to the depreciation yet again. So I know the amount is 35,000. Do I have to go past another journal to actually fix this? Nope, I'm actually going to close the journal so I don't even have to think about it. Another way to actually adjust the amount is using these rounding corrections. The rounding corrections you'll see have these yellow cells, which we actually find quite delightful at DraftWorks. They are lifesavers in their own regard, so we call them helper cells. This helper cell will help me to actually edit this formula instead of going and passing a journal. You'll see I can input an amount in this section here. It's not grayed out. It means it's editable. So what do I actually input? Well, in order to reduce a minus, I'm going to add to it. Well, technically you're increasing, but yeah, you get the picture. I'm going to add 35,000 here, which then removes 35,000 in depreciation. And then I'm going to go ahead and reduce by 35,000 in this instance, which will then clear my difference completely. And now I'm actually certain that all of my differences are cleared because it's not just clear here, but the entire row has been cleared. Now I am good to go with my PPE or property, plant, and equipment differences. So now that we've covered that, I'm gonna go back to my status. I see there's still a difference in the tax recon, but you know what? Let's kind of do this in a more orderly fashion. So I'm gonna address the tax calculation, but let's just spare it for a bit later, as it does fall quite late in my sheet selection. Let's go ahead and have a look at the cover page. The cover page contains information that we'll be pulling in from your client setup. You'll remember we inserted a certain registration number. This is the description we chose. We chose to leave it as the default, which is annual financial statements. You can edit this. And then the financial year is 2026 at the end of February. So all of these details I'm happy with. There's no issues. If they are, you can go ahead and go to client setup and update it. Your client setup has a live save feature. So that's why you won't see any save on your client setup. As soon as you make a change, it's immediately going to translate to your financial statements, and you can just move from your client setup to your financials to see that change being implemented. So as we scroll down, I'll see that I actually have this description here for the financial statements. This is in terms of the Companies Act. For those of us who know, it will ask you to disclose whether your financials are audited, unaudited, reviewed, or whatever the case may be. But how did DraftWorks already know that I'm auditing my financials? Well, you have told us. When you went into your content and you deselected or selected certain sheets here, it automatically tells DraftWorks that, oh, okay, I'm dealing with a set of financials that are being audited. The audit report is active, thus I'm dealing with a set of financials that are being audited. If I turn it off, it then goes to unaudited. If I turn on my review, it'll open my review, and then it will tell me that it's independently reviewed, and so on and so forth. But back to my cover page. There's further details in here, such as the preparer. So I actually don't know where this is coming from. So one thing about DraftWorks, we have formulas. They are a bit intuitive once you get to know the system. But in this instance, I'll just make it easy for you, just so you see exactly what's going on. I'm going to turn on the headings. The formula here says prepared by, and the answer is going to be pulling from G60. So G60 is here. So this is exactly where the information is going to be pulling from. There is a formula there, but like I said, if it's a blue cell, there's a formula. It's for your convenience. If you can't work it for your convenience, you can override it. She conquered the difficult designation of CA. She isn't a financial manager. She's in purposes. She also includes director, so everyone knows exactly who she is because in your financial statements, and that's where it will all pull from. Go to my index. Index is like any other index on planet Earth. It's basically the guide on what page what is on. So it's pretty self-explanatory, except for the fact that it doesn't have page numbers. This is the most bizarre looking index page I've seen ever. Why does it not have page numbers? Well, this is because until you actually have selected all of the relevant sheets on DraftWorks, the system hasn't made a conclusion on what the pages will be. Once you have selected all your relevant sheets and you activate the relevant sheets, you will then preview, which is the instruction here, and it will update your your index page. Where do I preview? Under the format tab, there is the financials preview, which I will then select. Once I do so, you will see if I just go to the index page that it actually has page numbers. It won't come up as preview to update in your preview. It will only do that before you preview on the actual financials. So one thing you might have noticed about these financials is they are quite Excel-like. And if you're familiar with Excel, DraftWorks will not be a completely baffling system. It is quite similar to Excel, although there are limitations on the things you might be able to do when you're moving in between the two programs, just as a special note there. So you'll then see that it has now updated and included my page numbers as I would have liked. This is all looking good to me now, so there's not too much more to address in the index page. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the management information or the general information sheet. As I said, information pulls in from your client setup all over the financial statements. And this is true again here. Remember my country of incorporation? It is still South Africa. My registration number, exactly pulling in from my client setup. All these details will be coming in from there, and you'll see that there are certain instances where there's just blue shading and white shading. So the blue and whites, again, similar to the content tab, when it's blue, in this instance, the opposite of the content tab, it will not show. When it's white, it does show. So what do I mean by that? You will just note for me that there is this massive gap before shareholders, these massive gaps, and I have registered offers, all of these details. If I go to preview sheet, which will allow me to see specifically just the sheet I'm on, I can then see that there are no such gaps. There are no such things anywhere in my financial statement. I'm going to go ahead and close this and go back to my general information. I just want to see something more detailed while I actually look at this at the financials. So to do that, I can go ahead and click on the live preview, which allows me to see a split screen of my my financials preview as well as the actual financials I'm working on. So if I go through this, I'll see, okay, I'm happy with this. I'm happy we do describe the business. But then Mr. Coffee did mention that we shouldn't be replicating information. He is trying to read things once. So I think he will not prefer to have the postal information included in there. But how do I remove it for him? You will see there is this minus block that you will note next to the postal address. If I click on this, it then closes the postal address. But I just mentioned that if it's white, it's gonna show. So why is it not showing now? Why am I lying to you? I'm not. I promise you. The plus then overrides the shading. The plus, if there is a plus, it acts as a shading of its own. So when you actually close the specific section, it will also close from top all the way to the bottom, including the part where it says the plus. This is just there so you can see exactly what am I going to be opening if I open. Well, if you open this, it's going to be the postal address. If we hide this, it does become a bit tricky for you to see it as well. There's also the tax showing twice. Why? I don't need that. So I'm going to go ahead and close it. Again, gone. All the unnecessary information disappearing. I have auditors and I have preparers. I am the preparer, so the auditor, this information is actually not accurate. I can go ahead and close that as well. Where do they live? Which company is going to be compiling? Who's the signatory, their designation, and their address. This is now all that you need to note. But one other thing is actually, no, let's leave that for a little later. We will look at it just now. Let's go on from the management information. It looks good to me. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the director's responsibilities and approvals. This section, I think Nikki's going to look at it in more detail on Thursday, but something to note is the information here is pulling in and is being disclosed in terms of the reporting standards, and thus we have locked it. If you do wish to make changes, Nikki is the person to hear from on Thursday. So please join us for that, where we will cover those in detail for you. So another thing that you might note is the director's signatory. So when you have more than 2 directors, you can actually include their details on the client setup. They don't populate in this instance because there aren't any, but they will automatically open these additional rows where the additional directors will then be disclosed. I'm gonna move on from here because I want to show you a little trick. The director's report is basically a summary of all the information in your financial statements. Most of you are going to be aware of what this is, but I'm not disclosing enough information. There is actually more details that I need to show in my going concern, for example. This is already populated in terms of what we think should be disclosed, but we don't know. We're just trying to make it convenient for you, so we open some parts. You can open the rest of the parts by going to the design. If you click on, okay, I'm going to put on headings because it's easier to see it. Headings, headings, headings. I don't know who this is for, but headings, headings, headings. I'm going to go ahead and show you that now. If you click on a specific row, even if you don't select it like this, you can click on it and then you can show the row if you wish to by going to the row visibility option and clicking on show row. It then goes from blue shading to white, which means it now shows. You'll see it comes up here. If I do the same for this row here, you'll see it come up again, but I actually don't need it. So I'm going to go ahead and hide it. I do need an additional disclosure. And since I won't be using this disclosure, I'm going to go ahead and overwrite it and include my own disclosure. Is Nicole, you really need to come with that feature for me. My spelling is still atrocious.
It's okay. Mine is even worse. Trust me on that one. Yeah, pretty old. Mr. Kofi phoned. He's happy for us to include this disclosure that you're adding. He's really happy to see it in his financials shortly.
Awesome. So if, for example, I did need to include all of this information, so I couldn't overwrite any information, you are always welcome to add more rows. How do you add a row? This is why we need the headings. You click on the 50. this will highlight the entire row, and then you can go ahead and insert rows. Two ways you can do this. You can insert rows. If you're inserting multiple rows, you can choose this option, or you can go to the format and insert rows right here. I only need, I actually need a couple rows, so I'm going to go and use the design option. I don't need 15, so I'm going to reduce that to the number I do in fact need, which is 3, and then I'm going to go ahead and insert, and it will then insert the rows for you. You'll see there's an additional space being created. I'm just going to place a placeholder so that he can remind us what it's supposed to say for the additional disclosure he wanted. I'm going to say Mr. I can then make this red and bold it so that when we are reviewing the financials with them, they can actually we can remember to update this information as well. So I'm going to go ahead, and you'll see that that information discloses as it does here. So if you do have colors in your financials or in the font specifically, it will show in your financials as well. This is just for me to know that there is a difference. There is a disclosure that we still need to receive for further disclosure purposes in our director's report. So when I review it, I'll see that red, it will flash out. Again, I don't like red things, so I choose red as a warning for myself. Yeah, you'll then see there's multiple other disclosures that are made. The directors are here pulling in from your client setup. The shareholders details are here, and then your auditors are here. You'll see that I actually haven't opened the compiler because it was an additional practice, so it might not be applicable. I'm going to be due to it will be up to me to actually include or exclude it. So I can go ahead and include it so that I show exactly who will be compiling the financials for our year. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the report of the auditor, or the independent auditor's report. So I remember something about the auditor saying they don't want Draftworks audit report, okay?
Yeah, Gumlelo Audit and a box of cookies phoned me and they said, listen, just keep a placeholder for them. They've got an audit report they'd like us to include later on. So you'll be able to help us with that one.
Sweet. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and hide all of this information so that we don't actually include our details, but you'll see that the details do pull in from your client setup. I didn't have a clue who was going to be the partner, so I didn't include that. But when I do, it will automatically populate in there. They said they're going to provide us with this, so it's all good. So then what happens now, Nikki? Do I just...
Sorry. Yeah, they asked, can we please have about a 2-page report? Am I able
2
to
pages?
set that up?
Sure, 100%.
I mean, I see you've got a preview of 1 page. So how am I going to add an extra page?
Okay, cool. So you'll see if you go down to this section here, it says expand this section to create blank pages for auditor provided reports. I'm going to expand it, and then this section here is just so that in any other sheet where there's reference made to the auditor's audit report, the correct qualification for your report is included. So if you have an unqualified report, you're good to go. You're a great person, but say you might have had some, let me say what I want to say. Say you might have had an adverse opinion, you will then go ahead and go to this dropdown and select the respective opinion that is expressed. We are unqualified because obviously this is coffee. This is Brewco. We do coffee the best, so we don't mess around when it comes to financial reporting. So you said it's 2 pages, Nikki?
Yes, sorry, I was on mute. Yes, it's 2 pages. Yes.
Awesome. So if my report is indeed 2 pages, I'm going to go ahead and expand this section so that I can provide 2 pages for the auditors to provide us their report. What does this do exactly? Well, if we come back to our index page, we will see that, sorry, did I? Now, audit report, just need to preview this so that it updates. Once I go to my index, you'll see my auditor's report is actually going over 2 pages now. I'll go back to my financials, and cool. We've sorted the auditors. We'll leave a blank space for them to fill in their part. Is there anything I need to note in the compilation report? Yes. So you remember?
Sorry,
Go
one
ahead,
second.
Nikki.
We had a question, and I think it is going to kind of help everyone that is watching.
Okay, perfect.
Can you just give us an indication, for example, if I wanted to reorder something? Let's say, for example, I had to show the income statement before the balance sheet. Someone just wants to know how
Great
to reorder.
question.
Yeah, sorry, it is a nice question. I thought it should be public.
Perfect. Yes. Awesome. Thank you for that question. You are awesome. And so is everyone else, but you are more awesome. But so is everyone else. But let's go back to how you actually go about moving a sheet. Say I wanted to move my report of the compiler to before the report of the auditor. I can go ahead, and I'm only using this as the example because I'm currently on the sheet. If you're on the sheet, you can go ahead and move the sheet that you're on. So the report of the compiler can come before or after the report of the auditor simply by using the move left or right option to the far left of your content tab. If I then go ahead and click on this, it will then move my report, and you'll see I move it across from the review, then I move it again, and then it comes before my audit report. This is also the case down here, which will be the case in my financial statements as well, and that will also carry over to my index page. I can show you that quickly. If I preview again, you will then see that my index now has report compiler first. The 7.8 is my independent report, auditor's report. That is how you'd go about moving it. I'm going to move it back because our auditors are going to pull rank, and I don't want that email. So I'm going to go ahead and move us back to after the audit report, but I can leave it here since we don't have an independent reviewer's report. So as I noted, there is the auditor's information disclosing in my report, compiler's report. They are not going to be compiling this, so they won't be signing it. The person who will be signing it is, in fact, Mrs. Espresso. So what do? Do I go in and type over this, change all of these details so that they suit my preference? No, there's an easier way. If you go to your template tools and go to apply additional practice, you can click on this and it will immediately change the details to that of the additional practice. Just at a click of a button, you'll see that Ruko is the company, Mrs. Espresso is signing, and she's going to be signing on the 22nd of January. And we're all going to be there to see it on Thursday. All of the details will pull in as they are in my client setup. So we're all good to go with my compilation report. We just need her signature at that point. So now to just look at our other sheets, basically where the financial statements actually start. We're looking first at the statement of financial position. If I give it a quick squiz, I'll see that I'm going 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is not active, 9 is not active, so I'm going 8, 10. What? How does that look? I'll just do a live preview, and we'll see that it's going 4, 5, 6, 7, 10. We absolutely despise this happening. So what do? Well, first I need to figure out why is this 9 not showing. I'm going to go ahead and open it because I remember the note 9 was open, but for Bruco's purposes, this note is not actually necessary. So they've asked us to close it. For that reason, we will be closing it. It automatically populates because there are amounts that are pulling in so that we don't miss any notes. You don't have to go and find the notes. The notes will automatically open when you have amounts linked to a specific section. I'm going to go ahead and close that note because it's an additional disclosure note for financial liabilities, and they don't actually want that to be disclosed. So once that is sorted, I can go back to my statement of financial position. Then I'll see that it's going from 7 to 9 now. I guess it's a little better, but I still need this 9 to be 8, in fact. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the 9 by using this shortcut again. And to move the note up or down, there is an option to do so. You don't need to go and copy the entire note and move it manually. You can go ahead and click on the cell where the note number is, navigate to your design, and then you'll see there's this move up and down option. So I'm going to go ahead and move the note up, and then you'll see that it actually is in fact moving up. It just is going to have to overcome the other notes that are ahead of it. But once I overcome 8, it will then update the note number automatically and will then change from 9 to 8 as it has now surpassed the previous 8 that was there. You'll see that the notes numbers update automatically. This will be explained in further detail on Thursday. I know we've just got teasers for days here, but please join us on Thursday and we will definitely cover that for you. If we go back to the statement of financial position, you'll see that we actually now are in sequence. We get the principle. Please move on. If we want to move the notes, we'll move them ourselves. Cool. I hear you guys. I hear you. I'm going to move on. Let's move on to the statement of comprehensive income. Here, a couple things I just want to draw your attention to. So this section says stock, show stock, question mark. It deserves an answer, and I'm going to give it an answer. We are a coffee company. We want to show that we have stock. So I'm going to include that in there. Then obviously you'll see there are input cells, but there's a formula. So if you do input the amounts in the trial balance, they will pull in here. And that is available for your purposes. And then something else I want to draw your attention to. If you remember in the beginning, for those of us who were here, there was a time when I mentioned something about combining my administrative expenses with my other expenses so that they show as one line item that is other expenses. Well, that's what Mr. Coffee also wants. He doesn't want unnecessary information, doesn't want to do too much reading. Keep the lines short, simple. So what do? We gotta obey. The client has instructed, and we gotta follow that instruction. So I'm gonna go back to my client setup. Instead of scrolling to find where do I merge, remember we have the amazing filter. So I'm looking to merge admin. Does admin come up? It does. Merge admin and distribution costs into other expenses. I'm going to tick this. And then, like I said, live saving. I go back to the financial statements, and immediately I no longer have other expenses. In turn, I have other. I no longer have admin expenses, but in turn, I have other expenses, which then combines the two expense categories into one. Final thing to note is there is also a different column, a row that is available here. This will also pull into your status. So if there are differences here, there's probably something wrong with your financial statements. You do need to address it, and please do address it. So that's our statement of comprehensive income. Let us now look at the shareholder stuff. I say stuff, it's their money. So you'll see that there is the issued capital and retained income, but there's also share premium and multiple other reserves that are available. These are shaded blue. Again, blue in the actual financials is not visible. In the content is visible. So just a mental note. So I will only see the retained income and issued capital when I do so. But what happens in a year where there's additional capital that is issued? Well, you will need to actually disclose that in your statement of changes in equity. So say we went from 150 to 200, for example. So I have an additional 50. Again, remember what I mentioned about balance sheet? Balance sheet movements, we don't want to partake because we don't know the exact amount that might be affecting the financials. But where it does come to things that are pretty obvious for us, like, for example, the income statement movements like profit, we will automatically populate those for you. We just don't want to make assumptions because they make, sorry, that's not safe for work. But yeah, that's how you'd go ahead and include the amount. So if we live preview this, you'll see there is a movement I'm accounting for, but red. Immediately red flag. That's why it's red. Because it is a red flag. It tells me there's something that's wrong. And please don't leave this in your financial statements, because you'll get questions like, what are we talking about here? What is other changes not yet reconciled? Is that an asset description? Is that a line item? Is that a description that we're using? Please don't come here and try and change it as well, because your information is still going to be wrong. That's why it's red. Please just address it. How do you address it? Well, this is saying that your movement that you've included doesn't actually reconcile to our closing balance. So you're saying there was a 50 addition, but we still close on 150, having started on 150. So the math is not mathing, or it is actually not reconciling, as us grown folk would say. So you do need to actually reconcile. So the system forces the reconciliation by including this line to remove basically the effect of this movement that you've included. So please include movements when they are movements. If they aren't movements, please don't include movements. We are not going to limit you on the movements. There are issue of capital, issue of equity, or many other options available. There's also these other options that are available. You can edit them as you choose, and then you can disclose the movements in there as well. I'm going to go ahead and clear this because there actually wasn't any additions, and you see no more red flags. My statement of changes in equity is back to reflecting the correct amount. You'll see there's a significant amount of cells and rows, but they don't show when I preview. That's because only the relevant information is set to show, and thus it comes through right here. Why do we have these? Well, because there is a possibility for the information to be disclosed for you when you need it. So if we went with that same principle, you'd have to go and add an issued capital column as well. So that's why we have these other columns and rows, so that you do have them available when you do need them. But they will not show in your financials. They'll only show here when you're working with the financials. If you do want to learn how to work with these not showing, we can also show you that. Ask for assistance and support, or we might mention it if we're cheeky on Thursday. We'll just have to come and see if we do. So moving on to our cash flow. Well, this was at least the bane of my existence when I was in practice. I despised it because it just never balanced. It never made sense. I never knew what was going on, but there is a cure for this dreaded disease that is the cash flow statement.
Okay, so the cash flow scared view away so badly, but we're going to try and cover it from this point of view. So as Pumi was explaining, I do have my cash flow. Okay, all the figures have come through from what is required. Now we've discussed our helper cells, we've discussed input cells. So the helper cells are there to enable you to move amounts around should you need to from any perspective, whether it is a client-specific request, whether it is actually just a change that you are wanting to do. So my yellow cell, I can go and use a value, and I will adjust my value on the other side. Okay, I can then again use the blue cell to go and edit it, just to ensure I'm balancing. So just a few things to take from the cash flow is, one, you can use yellow cells, you can use blue cells, and I'd now be able to adjust it. If I happen to have a cash flow and I still see a little bit of a difference, this could be a possible rounding issue that you are facing, like a 1 Rand, 2 Rand. Well, hey presto, yellow cell, I can go and input that to all be 1. I don't need a double entry. Okay, I can simply just use it to round off my cash flow. Now, a lovely feature that we want to highlight is our drill down functionality. So I can see I've got my drill down. I'll go and do that. Now, when you drill down, it's going to give you a snapshot into what makes up that value on your financials. So if you click on any amount and you say drill down, this is going to enable you to see what makes up my values. Now, the tip that we were going to highlight is the little double-sided arrow in your drill down. As you can see from the trial balance we covered, the double-sided arrows normally gives you a shortcut to your link in. So if I click on the double side, you will now see that I have the pop-up. So if I'm drilling down an account and I see that while I was doing my allocations, I happened to misallocate something, I can now simply go and choose my new account and change that link if I need to. Okay, so it'll enable me to see that. Unfortunately, the file I have doesn't have a really good rounding example, but we're going to use our lovely imagination here. If you ever see something that says system value and it's got the rounding reference here, it is talking about where all those cents were rounded to. So it would usually show a value. Now, depending on where I want that rounding category to go, I would select my rounding options. And you can see I can go for payables, I can go for receivables, I can go for bank charges. Just depends where I want that allocation to go. Lastly, I know this comes up a lot, is if I have a look at the view here, I do see Pumi has joined us again, so we will give him another go. We've got the live preview option. So I'm looking and I'm seeing, my dear Mr. Kofi, he has some very unique disclosures he wants to show, but he's not a fan of this particular layout. So if I have the alternative layout that I am looking for, where I can go and activate it is simply here. It tells me open note to hide calc on face of cash flow. When I jump there, it's going to take me to the section in the notes. I will then expand it and I will go through that process of if I had adjustments for any rounding purposes, I'll go utilize those yellow and blue cells. But now, if I have a look at my cash flow, I have the different layout. So it's just hiding in my notes. And it was an accident. Didn't mean to do that. Is it a train smash? No, it isn't. Quickly just go and close that note. And then I have my cash flow presented. I just want to give Pumi another try if you guys don't mind bearing with us for another second. We just want to see if he'd be able to share. Pumi, you want to give it another try?
Okay, perfect. So you will have noted that there is a drill down that we do. Here, you'll notice I've got tax payables under my trade payables. This is not appropriate because it's not trade payable. It's actually more of an operating thing. So I'm going to go ahead and search for the appropriate link. I'm looking for tax, and tax has multiple links available. So let's see if I can filter it a bit more. So there's VAT and taxation. You'll see taxation has a C link, a CA link, and a CL link. If your tax cannot be offset for whatever reason, you are more than welcome to use the CL and CA links, which will then be used to apply to specifically the tax asset and the tax liability. But in my case, the tax is capable of being offset, so I'm going to choose the C link to make my life easier. I have now changed the link from my financials, which is a great benefit. Rather than going in and out of my trial balance, I can just choose the link and change it from right here. So now that I've changed that link, I think I am ready to move on from the accounts, from the cash flow. But just before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and have a look at the status page, and we'll see I no longer have any issues with regard to my prior year tax figure. It's all sorted. So I'm going to go ahead and look at my accounting policies now. Do you need to close the drill down? Just simply click on this here to close the drill down. And then we'll be looking at the accounting policies. So the accounting policies actually populate, but they populate for your review. So you can determine whether there are sections of the accounting policy that are appropriate for your disclosure purposes or not. Should you find that they are not appropriate, you can go ahead and hide the sections that you do not prefer to include, as I've previously demonstrated, or you can activate rows that you do need to be disclosed. You can do this for multiple selections or just one. It is up to you how you want to go ahead and do that. But yeah, the accounting policy will populate, but a disclaimer, it is not necessarily going to be to your specifications or your requirements. you can edit these if you need to. We will definitely look at editing those and the notes on Thursday. So speaking of notes, we then have the nodes. These will also populate based on the linking in your trial balance. It will be, just note for me, please, the bare minimum information required by the standards. So if you do have additional disclosures that you need to include, you can go ahead and do so. So for example, if we're looking at the bank, it only discloses the balance. If I want to go ahead and disclose further information, such as details like the bank account, you can go ahead and disclose those for your multiple bank accounts to show the users the number of bank accounts and the breakdown of the balances in those bank accounts as an example. So I said we're going to touch on notes a bit more on Thursday, so let me close it there. But there are multiple notes sheets available for you, and also there's a little add note just as a final teaser on the notes section. At the bottom of each one of these sheets, there's an additional note you can open and disclose information as you would like to do so. But we'll talk about that on Thursday.
Mr. Coffee is just sending us those details tonight as to what he wants disclosed as an additional note. So if you are interested in customizing notes, guys, we will be highlighting it on Thursday. It is a little bit more of an advanced topic, so we will be highlighting that for you guys. I'm just waiting for dear old Mr. Coffee. I think they're a little bit disperso on their side today.
Of course. The chaos in business. We know it too well. So I've taken us to the detailed income statement for a couple of reasons. You'll remember I mentioned how my revenue and cost of sales will have the same disclosures. So I'm disclosing all revenue. All my coffee revenue is disclosed, and all my coffee cost of sales are also disclosed specifically as single line items. Those will split, and they'll disclose the description as I input it in the disclosure description. Same is the case for the cake. You'll see it right there. But something that a lot of clients do often ask us for is the other expenses. They don't want to see it in such a long list. So if you do not want to see the list, you can go ahead and hide it by selecting this under this total only. You can say yes, and then it will show you the total only. If you prefer to show the other expenses at the bottom of the sheet or the page, you can go ahead and then say new page and say yes, and then the information will disclose here, but also will be detailed at the bottom right here. If we then okay, so next is the tax calc. I did mention this in previous sections, but the tax calc is basically the information you will need to so this is basically how you can reconcile your tax information in your financials. So one thing to note here is that we have multiple tax implications for different types of entities. So for example, if you're dealing with a farming company, you can always activate that option, but the most frequently requested is the small business enterprise tax rates. If your company is a small business and it does have the SBC tax rates applied to it, you can go ahead and activate that right here by clicking on yes. It will then ask you for which periods should we be applying the small business tax rates or micro. You can go ahead and indicate mine is just for 2026, just for this illustration. It will then activate for you and automatically do the calculation based on the latest rates. As you know, the business tax rates are updating every year, so it's tax. So we will use the most pertinent information and relevant information for those purposes, so that you have accurate information. You can do checks for yourself, but we are quite certain that this will always be the correct calculation based on the applicable rates. But since Mr. Coffee's company is not an SBC, it actually is a company, we can go ahead and turn off this option right here, and then you'll see that the information pulls in under normal tax. So this normal tax will be based on the tax rates as discussed previously in the client setup, and it will apply the tax rates to your taxable income. But you'll see that we don't start with taxable income. Instead, we start with the profit or loss that is pulling in from your statement of comprehensive income.
Okay,
Nikki,
for
were
me,
there any
yeah.
adjustments? Yeah, well,
I'm waiting on Mr. Kofi to just confirm whether or not they had some wear and tear or depreciation adjustments that they need to make. So maybe just give everyone an idea of where this will go, so that if they would need to make any adjustments, be it debit or credit, how we are able to select it, and that they are relevant to what's on the tax return that would show up on e-filing.
yes, 100%. So, as Nikki has indicated, you can actually include tax adjustments based on either the categories available here, which are here for your convenience. If none of these are applicable, you can always override it and include the tax adjustment that you want to include for your purposes. The amounts that you do enter into this section, including the debit adjustments and credit adjustments, will automatically populate on your ITR 14, which will then help in the finalization of your tax returns as well. So, just a final thing I want to note is that little difference that we were still facing with regard to our tax calc. So you'll see we cleared the prior year, but the current year still has a difference. When you see a difference in here, it usually means there is something off about the amount that's being disclosed on your tax calc, which is a calculation, so a mathematical determination, and the amounts that are disclosed in your financials. So first, I'll start with the statement of changes in equity. It's easier because it is a much smaller amount, but it is also easier to identify. I will go ahead and look at the normal tax raised in my tax calc and go determine what the tax was in my statement of changes, a statement of comprehensive income. The tax in my statement of comprehensive income was 232,249, whilst the tax on my tax calc is 245,249, which is that 13,000 rand difference. So I need to pass an adjustment to reduce this difference. The difference with the statement of comprehensive income will need to be an adjustment to the actual figures that are in my trial balance. So I will have to pass a journal for this. But this might be the case that there are just certain adjustments that need to be passed or processed in here. In this instance, Mr. Coffee hasn't actually indicated, so we will go ahead and pass an adjustment to change the tax. So I'm going to include a description correction of taxation. That's not it. Taxation. Press enter, then I'll have the accounts available. Again, I can search for them here, or I can go ahead and search for them in using the double arrows available. The taxation expense is the first one, and I need to increase the expense, so I'm going to debit it. And then I'm warned again, don't worry, I'm going to get to it. Then there's the tax payables account. I will then increase my liabilities. This is just for this instance. It will not always be 13,000. It will not always be the taxation expense and taxation payables in this order. You will always have to determine for your own purposes what the appropriate adjustment would be. And please, I know they said it a lot in school, but professional skepticism and professional judgment are very crucial in this process. So I'm going to go back to my financials and just make sure I check again. You'll see I finally have cleared my statement of comprehensive income, but I still have a significant difference in my statement in my statement of financial position. This is the difference between this amount here that is recalculated as opposed to the amount in my in my balance sheet, which you will see here as 343,557, whilst I have 600,000 here. What does this relate to? I actually can't wrap my head around it. Did they provide us their statement of account for tax by any chance, Vicky?
Perhaps not yet. So I think let's just fix this one on Thursday because they still owe us some values, and then we can just finish up reconciling the balance sheet tax
Okay,
session.
cool.
Okay.
So if they do provide you with the necessary tax information, which will tell you the tax payments made in the year, if there were any refunds, if there were any provisional tax payments made, you'll need to include that information in here, and then that will assist in reducing this balance here. This does not mean your financials are wrong. It just means that it's not reconciling the tax calculation with the statement of financial position. So at the moment, it might just be the fact that we need to have further details on the tax in order to create this difference. But since we are at this point, we are ready to finally get to preview the financials for Nikki to review them for me. So
You
I'm gonna,
put me, I think for that review,
yeah,
once you preview the financials for everyone, I think let's focus on incorporating those, the letterheads in the meantime, in the interim, just so that we can have a nice quick draft so that I can
okay,
review and we can, finalize all those nitty-gritties on Thursday. And
perfect,
also, we'll only consider rolling the file over on Thursday.
perfect. Sounds good.
Thanks.
So that's that. Oh, so now that I'm ready to preview my financials, I'm gonna go ahead and preview them. Have we received the audit report yet, or will that be a later inclusion as
We
well?
have they've given us some interim ones, so I think let the
Okay.
users see how it's going to look. They might change it, but we can always update it. So it'll be good for everyone to know that I can replace it if it's not quite the correct one yet.
Okay, awesome. So what we'll need to bring in the audit report received. How you would do so, you'll remember there was the import file option here. We can go ahead and use that to find the file that we're working with. We have the audit report right here. And that confidential sheet, we need to include that as well.
Yes, please. Yes.
Awesome.
Yes,
Awesome.
yes.
So this
Um,
will,
Mr. Kofi needs to, for the board of directors, well, not board of directors, but the two of them, they want to include that as an extra A. So most likely after the income tax computation for their scenario. I know we can
okay,
include it
perfect.
anywhere else, but if we can just include it after the income tax, please.
No problem. No problem. So when you do select the file in this way, you will be provided with the options of where you want to place it. It is financial information, so it does have relation to our financial statements, so I'm gonna place it under financial data, and then I'm gonna go ahead and import. But another way you can go about importing information, couple cool ways that we can do this is to actually, I'm gonna drag my um, folders here. So the annexure A, as Nikki has noted, is also required and it's going to be included in my financials. So I'm going to go ahead and just drag it from the folder and drop it where I want it. And I want it under financial data. I drop it in there. I will then check and it is now available for my use. If, for example, you also want to include another sheet, it's also possible to copy it, and I'll go ahead and include it in my documents this time, and I'll paste it in here. Just right click on your mouse once you get to DraftWorks under the specific section you want to drop it, then I'll paste. Then I'll get a notice that the information has been popped in, and then you'll see it is now available for use for us. So that's just a couple, maybe three ways that you can go ahead and import information into your financial statements. So now we actually don't need the status page. They don't want to see it, and it is information they still need to provide us with, so they're all aware that we're not done. But for their purposes, when they see the first draft, they don't want to see the status. Neither does Nikki, because my manager trusts me to actually clear the status page. But if you do want to include it, you're more than welcome to. I will then preview, and you'll see that we no longer have the status page, but I do need to include draft because this isn't ready for signing yet. So I do need to include the draft watermark, which I can activate with the embed watermark option here just by ticking on that. Then it's green, good to go. Now the draft is available. You can change the orientation, size, and everything in there as well. Maybe we'll elaborate a bit more on Thursday on that as well. So Nikki mentioned that we do have a letterhead we need to include. This would be for our audit, the report of the compiler.
Yeah, I want to. for the compiler's report, if possible, please.
Sure.
Mr. Kofi would like his logo on the cover page.
Got you.
Thanks. And then, of
No
course,
problem.
the audit report will just import that one to replace
Yes.
at a later date. But we can show
Okay,
everyone
awesome.
a sneak peek.
Okay, awesome. I just want to do it in the order that it appears here. So I could start with the audit report, but because the letterheads come before that section, I'm going to address it here. So I'm going to go ahead and insert a letterhead by going to the letterheads options. You'll see you have multiple letters that you can include. You can include many more options in there. How do I insert one? I will go ahead and go to these three dots here, click on it, and then it will offer me options. My information is on my desktop under Bruco. And then you'll see that there isn't all that other information where my bank statements, my audit reports are, because only images can be uploaded in this section. So it filters only for the images because it will only allow you to input images. So I do have the auditor's letterhead, which they trust us with because we are very ethical people. But in this instance, I need the Bruco one. I'm going to go ahead and open that, and then it will populate in there. It is now available for me to use, but you will see if I go to my report of the compiler, nothing's there. Why is that? Well, I still need to tell DraftWorks, where do I want this letterhead that I've just now inputted? So where do I want to apply letterhead 1? You can change it as well. But where do I want to input letterhead 1? I can go ahead and tick on where I want it. I want it on the report of the compiler. And once I tick on that, it will apply automatically. There's no apply needed. It will automatically apply as soon as I tick, and you'll see it populates right there for us. So he also said he wanted his logo. I can include a logo same way. Just go ahead and go to his logo, open it, and then you'll see the logos available. Where do I want the logo to appear? This is logo is the second letterhead, and I want it on the cover, so I'll tick exactly that, and then I'll have the logo appearing on the cover. So we'll show you.
For me, I think he'd like center. Am I able to move that image around?
Yes. So we can go ahead and go to the header image, and you said top center.
Yeah, let's do middle center, hey? I want it in the middle.
Center.
Well, he wants it in the middle.
Okay, awesome.
See, so he's living la vida loca.
So for those who missed that, you can move the image by going to the header image and then adjusting it under the position right there. We can then attend to, the audit report. But before we get to the audit report, there's just one thing I want us to note. Say, for example, we're looking at our notes, PPE, for example. This doesn't actually address years, and it does include the years here. We can remove the years by going to the year header. I just need to confirm which page it's on and where I don't want it to apply. Page 17, I don't want the heading to be there. So I'm going to go ahead and go to year headers, and page 17 is there. Turn that off. And if I go back to my PPE, voila, it has no longer included the year headers. That's because I wanted them removed from page 17. Now they're gone. Let us then move on to the inserts. So inserts is basically the function on your preview that allows you to pull in external PDFs into DraftWorks. Let's start with the report of the compiler, the audit report in this instance. I'm going to go ahead and click on the three dots. Three dots usually means bring something in. So now that I've imported my documents, it will actually filter automatically for all PDFs that are available and just tell me the location of the PDFs as they have been placed. I actually need the report of the audit report, so I'm going to go ahead and tick that. I'll select it, and then it will be available for me here. But there's a little cross here because I haven't told DraftWorks what do I want to do with this document that I've imported. So at the moment, it's nothing. So it's not going to do anything as it sits on none. You have the option to prepend, which means put in front of, replace, which means take away the information that you currently have and input information that we want to import, or append, which means to put in after. So I'm going to go ahead and replace because the auditor said they don't want anything to do with the audit report that is default. They provide us with their own audit report. And once I replace, you will see if I do go to the audit report, independent auditor's report is gone and it's been replaced with the description as it is on my PDF. You will see that I now have the auditor's report available that is provided by the auditors. To see it a bit better, I will just zoom out. Then you can see exactly how great our auditors are. Did I not tell you they are as sweet as cookies? Chocolate chip cookies, to be exact.
Well, they are Audit and a box of cookies.
Exactly. So they did. Oh, you did mention Mr. Kofi also wanted the annexure to be included in the financials as well. And you said you wanted after the income tax computation. So
I do. Let me just scroll down just to check. The 2 pages replaced on my page numbers
yes,
in line.
it did replace. Our audit report was 2 pages as they promised us, and we did replace all other pages. And you will see that it is still in line with our index page 6 and 7. If I look at my audit report, I have page 6 and page 7. And then I'll have, awesome. So then the final thing is the annexure that he wanted to include in at the end of the financials. Again, same process. I just select the annexure, it comes in, and he said he doesn't want to replace the tax computation, but rather input the sheet after. So we'll go ahead and append. This will then include an additional sheet which will populate on your preview page that is then available for use. But this page doesn't have a page number, which is not consistent with the rest of the information we have here. Also, so for us to actually input a page number, we will go ahead and tick this footer option under the preview. If I tick that, what happens? We will find out momentarily. If I go back to the annexure, voila, the page number has been inserted. It's all good to go. We are living La Vida Mocha. This is the best thing ever. So you'll note one thing here, the supplementary the supplementary information that's being disclosed right at the bottom. If I just go back to that for you, you'll see this description. You can turn this on and off should you wish to do so. This will be under your footers. You'll see unaudited footer. It's ticked, which means it's active. If I want to deactivate it, I can tick it. But Mr. Kofi does want to be specific with the information that has been audited, as opposed to the information that has been audited. So I think we can cut it here for today because there is so much more fun to be had on Thursday. But thank you for joining us.
For me, one thing. Okay, obviously we gurus, right? But
yes.
What happens if I need help from this incredible support team you keep talking about? How do I get help?
You mean South Africa's very own Avengers? Well, you know what? They are available for you to contact in a couple of ways. You can call us, you can email us, or if you have trouble with your file and you want to send us your file to look at it for you, you can go ahead and submit a support request. You will need to then email the support request. That is the option you'll select. Once you choose to email the support request, it will then provide you with this little block. You'll detail the issue you're facing. Please detail the issue you're facing. Otherwise, we'll have to come back to you, which may cause delays in getting the work done for you. Detail it as much as you can for us so we know exactly what you need to be done. And then we'll go ahead and contact you once we've done the work for you, and we'll return the file to you, and we'll also give you instructions on how you can return that. I don't want to bother them with that at the moment, but I do actually want to talk to them. How do I talk to these people? Are they people? They are. It's real people. They might be lightning fast. They might be so quick to respond. They might take 2 seconds to fix your problem, but they are human beings. And
some might be descendants of Thor with their lightning fast responses.
No, the Avengers is just a title. It's not really who they are. They are genuinely human beings And the best part is they are people with an accounting background. They've been in practice, so they understand a lot of what the issues you may be facing, and they are there to assist you with those. So how do you actually talk to these people? Well, there is the remote support option, the remote support function. If you click on this, you'll get this little notice to launch remote support. Please launch it. Once you've launched remote support, then there will be a request to make changes to your device. Promise you, we're not trying to change anything on your device. This is only for us to be able to access your screen once you communicate with us. This will then be activated once you say yes to that option. Once you say yes, there will be this little window that pops up with a session code. The session code will automatically generate. You do not need to come up with one. You do not need to invent one. It will automatically generate. It might take a little bit to actually generate, but you can go ahead and wait for that. And once it has, you can send DraftWorks a message. I won't make it DraftWorks in case they think maybe it is someone from DraftWorks or something. I'll change it to, what's a nice name? Let's say Shane. They won't know it's which Shane it is, so they just answer based on the fact that they're receiving a request. You can send them a message by clicking on this little chat box here. The message function will pop up, and then you can send them a message detailing your issue, or you can say hello, and then they'll say hi, how can we assist? You can detail your issue. I'll tell them what's a problem we face a lot, retained income. They will then receive this message on their end, and between 8 o'clock and 5 o'clock Central African time, you will receive a response to your request or queries, and we will then, I say you will then receive assistance from a support consultant. Again, it is a human being, so please do be nice. We're just trying to assist you with whatever you need, and we're trying to do it as quickly as possible. And we understand sometimes you might get frustrated, but we will definitely try to help you as far as we can. Unfortunately, we are not able to assist with technical questions, but if it is something related to the system or a fault that you might be facing, we are more than happy to assist you. So they'll send a request to connect to you. You will say allow. I'll say cancel in this instance, as I actually don't want them to come on. I just wanted to demonstrate for you. So you'll see they're talking back to you, no generic responses. You'll tell by these little faces that it is a different person each time, because those are unique identifiers to tell you you're talking to a person. It's not a specific, it's not an IT generated response that you're receiving. It's an actual human being.
So thank you so much, folks.
Awesome. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining our session today. I do wish you a lovely evening further, and cannot wait to see you on Thursday, where we will have much more in-depth discovery that we go into with this file.
Yeah, guys, from all of us. Actually, for me, you can put your camera on, I think, let everyone see your lovely shining face.
They might have forgotten me.
Yes, of course, we were too busy focusing on coffee. Everyone, thank you very much for joining. Thank you for putting up with our technical error that we did experience. We will hopefully not have anything like that on Thursday. Please join us again on Thursday. We guarantee you there are going to be tips galore. There are some really awesome features that we are going to highlight. And once again, we value your time today, this week, and for the rest of the series. We hope you have an absolutely brutastic day. We'll stick with that coffee theme. Go have a nice cup of coffee, go home, enjoy the rest of your day. We'll keep the chat open a little bit longer if anyone needs any questions. But thank you so very much, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
I think that's it. We're going to call it a day. Enjoy your evening. Catch you on Thursday.
Have a lovely one, everyone. Hope to see you online soon. Bye.